I have a request. I don't think I do this very often. And
What's
I guess
that?
I informed you guys on Monday that, during the Colts game on Sunday, certainly there weren't many people in the building, and I was pretty bored pregame, and my nephew was there, first ever NFL football game. Perfect opportunity for that. So I go down, say hi to the great Luke Lubbers, and as I'm making my way to his seats, I run into listener Ben, and listener Ben, extremely energetic in his praise for Mark Dykton in the reentries that Mark provides us. Not only the hourly ones at the top of each hour on Football Mondays, if you will, as we recap Colts game, but also just the song reentries. And Mark, you've done this now for past year plus, where you tweet out all the songs at the end of the show.
I've been asked. So I've obliged, and I tweet them out after.
I feel like yesterday there was a lot of like Puddle of Mud type songs.
No.
Was it all Nickelback?
It was all
yesterday?
Nickelback.
Well, that's okay. That's
I meant
what
to
it
ask
was.
you about that.
There was
Why?
no reason.
Same thing.
Eddie from Aquarium Company texted me. He's like, "What's the reason behind Nickelback?" I'm like, just to see if anybody caught on. Then I just played Nickelback.
I
the whole
caught
time.
on. Yeah,
I thought Mark
caught
got
on.
last in our fantasy football league or something, and that was
He's
his
like,
punishment.
I'm going to force feed you guys Nickelback. Yeah, I called it Puddle of Mud, but I didn't realize that they were from the same artist. Go ahead. So what do you want? What did
My
Ben say?
request is this. Back
Okay.
in high school, the CD that I would play endlessly, and you probably wonder why the women
here we
in
go.
high school weren't really talking to me very often.
Let me guess, the Slim Shady LP.
Well, I certainly had some Marshall Mathers on there at times, but Jerry Goldsmith, the legend, the Rudy soundtrack.
Oh,
Mark,
God. Oh, God. Really?
Tryouts
Come
number 6 on the Rudy soundtrack was absolutely unbelievable. The crescendo of the instrumental, when it hit about 2 minutes in, you might as well called me, Pato Award on 465 for just the amount of just instant jubilation that I had. That is probably too long of a crescendo, Mark, to really be a
you
good
think so? 2 minutes?
re-entry. Here I am putting on my musical hat. Number 8 on the soundtrack, Mark. It's called Take Us Out. I would love if at one point today you brought us back in with that. Can I make that request?
Sure. I'll write it down.
Are you guys okay
I'll
with
take
that?
note of
No,
it.
I'm going to look it up. If you
Andy,
don't,
are you good with
yeah,
that?
I think on the crescendo also, you can mix in there James Franklin telling Marcus Freeman to his face that Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. You can do that, too. If you just don't mix those two together, that'd be a fine thing to do on this
James
game day.
Franklin has entered Brian Kelly territory for me.
Oh, stop. Not that close. If he beats
Just
you today, well, he is
Just
smug. Yeah.
Just slimy politician on the mic. Oh, that press conference yesterday. I wanted to puke. Marcus Freeman wanted to break him in half yesterday.
And they
up there on
they
that
have to
stage.
sit right next to each other, too.
Just
I hate when they do that. Come on.
Absolutely painful there. So Mark Dykton, I believe that number 8 on the soundtrack, Take Us Out, is what it's called. I believe that is as Rudy is running onto the field.
I will review it and see if it meets my
If you want
standards.
to kind of match it up with the movie.
I was legit
itself.
worried when you said Jerry Goldsmith. I'm like, okay, I'm not Casey Kasem over here.
know.
That's kind of an ancient reference. Ward, do you have any idea who that is when I say Casey Kasem? That seems like an ancient reference.
I feel like it's Saturday morning. I'm driving the kids to the library and have flipped on some random station.
It's such an old, musty reference. But we said Jerry Goldsmith. I go, I have no idea who that is. Because I know your wheelhouse of music, and it seems to be mostly Eminem.
And it's not Jerry Goldsmith, is what you're saying.
And it's not Jerry Goldsmith.
Coming up, number 7, it's the mamas
I tried
and
to
the
play it for
papas.
the kids last night in the car, and I got booed.
Are you going to make it? I mean, you got 12 and a half hours at least until kickoff. Is there a nap? The kid's going to keep you busy, your job keeping you busy.
Yeah,
how are you making it all the way to midnight tonight?
Well, we haven't got anything on Chris Ballard, so
Okay.
it sounds like that presser will not be taking place
Nope.
today.
You're good to go there?
Yeah, it will be a long wait until 7:30 is what you're getting at. We'll try to make it go fast here for you. Obviously, this is the wake-up call. We probably should say good morning at 7:04. I'm Kevin Bowen. That was Andy Sweeney. Mark Dykton hopefully will abide by my request here at some point.
You won't give me a glowing review like Ben otherwise?
Oh, no, I mean, Mark, you know what I think of your re-entries on music. It's always very good. I don't need to, scratch your back here on this Thursday morning.
I wouldn't oppose.
There's a song called Tryouts on here.
So Tryouts is the best one.
The
That's
final
6.
game.
The final game's about a 6-minute one. That's number 10 on the CD. So that that takes a while. I mean, we'd have to have, you guys would just absolutely want to kill me at that point if I asked you to play that one. Number 8, Mark, Take Us Out. It's about 1:58, and again, you get immediate crescendo. on that.
If Spotify Wrapped was around back then, would that have been like top of your Wrapped? Was the
it would
movie
have been
soundtrack?
right up there with "You're Welcome" from Moana, and Taylor Swift, "Bad Blood," and Hakuna Matata. A lot of basketball we'll get to here on this Thursday morning. Good night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Good night in Bloomington. Good second half certainly in Bloomington. We'll hit on both of those things. Boy, the Butler Bulldogs simply cannot win a basketball game. Issues there for Thad Matta a whole lot right now. And we'll sprinkle in some Colts. Again, I know from a pertinent standpoint, we kind of await Chris Ballard's words. I think one item I want to get to today, Andy, is there's about a half dozen starters that will hit free agency. And in a typical Chris Ballard offseason, those half dozen, in all likelihood, would all be back.
Or at least a lot of them, yeah.
So I would ask you, who would you bring back out of that group? And, it got a lot of traction yesterday, and you and I talked about it in about the 8:30 segment, Jim Irsay's post-game locker room speech from Sunday. I want to play different audio from a player that has won a Super Bowl and has been part of a winning culture, that when I hear that particular person describe the Colts' 8-9 season, I nod my head, versus when Jim Irsay talks about it, I shake my head.
Yeah, the Irsay stuff, it's funny. We talked about it, and then it ignited yesterday, did it not? I mean, I'm not saying it's because we talked about it. I know James Boyd posted
it seemed like
as
right
well.
after the show, all of a sudden, it just started to get picked up. And
yeah, I mean, JMB was angry at it. We talked about that before we came on the air. So I have little confidence from hearing Jim Irsay and then just knowing Chris Ballard. There's no way, and I think this is where it kind of starts, there's no way a Colts fan feels any confidence that anything is going to be different. You're asking a group of people to do something that is fundamentally different than what they've done. And then, it might be a small thing, but later on in the show, Ed Dodds, again, this time of year is interviewing at other places. And so another voice.
The right-hand man of Chris Ballard.
Of Chris Ballard, it would be another voice, that they would have to replace if that happens. And, again, is Chris Ballard going to hire somebody? Is it going to be a yes man? It goes into roster building. So we'll dive into that. Reminder, Sean McDonough going to join us today at about 7:45. I was out last time you guys talked to him, so I'm really excited. He'll be on the call tonight on ESPN for Notre Dame. And who are they playing? In Penn State.
Oh, my God.
I'm losing my mind.
Oh.
We just talked about James Franklin.
I was confident in it until I just heard that.
Yeah.
He needs Jerry Goldsmith more than anything.
Andrew Chernoff's going to join us as well. He's down there right now covering it. We'll talk with him, and obviously it's a Thursday. Scott Agnes, what did you make of the two games last night? Quickly for me, the Pacers now have put something together here, and Thomas Bryant, obviously, the big story. So we'll talk about that, and then I don't know. I mean, IU in that second half looked good last night. Now, there's a couple funny things that happened. You had the blow-by handshake of Musbus, who is insufferable in every way as Eric Musselman. Well, he is one of the more insufferable coaches.
He wanted to go after that official like I want to go after James Franklin right now.
He is just an absolute baby, and Arkansas was tired of him, and USC's on the clock. They're 2-3 years away from being tired, especially if he can't make the Elite Eight there. But 5 straight wins for IU, and now upcoming, KB, they have 9 straight quad 1 wins. Actually, I think it's 10 or 11. They're going to be not favored. They're going to be underdogs in 8 or 9 straight games, according to KenPom. So for me, a nice win last night, a nice second half, I should say, last night. Ballo was great again. We talked about that lineup, no Malik Renew, but then on top of it, it's kind of like, now what? Now what are you going to do? The next couple weeks here, I think, could make or break Indiana's basketball season.
Let's kind of start in geographical order. If we go to the closest spot, I thought the Pacers, again, just handled business really, really well. And, Miles Turner's out, and Tyrese Halliburton's iffy with his ankle. The Bulls have kind of just, I feel like, been a thorn in the Pacers' side over the last couple of years. And you just beat the you-know-what out of them. And Jeremiah Johnson, when he was on with us yesterday, threw out some kind of wild numbers. Didn't JJ say if the Pacers win by double digits tonight, that would be the first time since 2015?
Yeah,
that they've won 4 in a row.
Yep.
By double digits. They've trailed for 6 minutes in the new year. Maybe the Jim Irsay banner he wants to hang for being 1-0 in
exactly what I was
2025.
thinking, yeah.
Maybe they could put that next to Lynn Dunn or Tamika Catchings or whoever else up in the rafters there inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So just again, I don't want to call it the professional win. I called it on Monday because I think that's a little bit of a disservice. But I was thoroughly impressed. And you brought up Thomas Bryant. Stylistically, Andy, I think it's really important that he brings you very similar characteristics to Miles Turner. Like last night, he's asked to be in the starting lineup. Moses Brown, he shoots it as far away as Max Bowen from the basket.
It wasn't a fit, right? He was just tall.
Thomas Bryant stretches the floor.
Oh, yeah, he had a couple threes, sure.
He was outstanding last night. So, again, for the Pacers, just handle that 2 games above 500. And now you start to get a little bit more marquee. One of the bigger home games of the year, just inevitably with the Warriors coming up Friday. And certainly the big one last night in the NBA, Cavs Thunder. The Pacers will see Cleveland coming up Sunday and Tuesday. First time all season they will play the Cavs. And then in Bloomington, I know Michael Woodson doesn't want to entertain the questions really post-game, but you can't ignore the one big. You can't.
No.
I mean, Andy, you look at the last 3 games, and if you just want to go off point totals, and I know a lot of people point to deeper analytics, but to kind of just go with the common box score, they've scored 84, 77, and 82. And remember, the first game, Malik Reneau had that knee injury very early.
Yeah, he left in the first minute or two of the game.
Pretty much you've gone the one big in these last 3 games. Find me a stretch in the Big Ten under Mike Woodson where Indiana's had that. 82, 77, 84. 3 in a row. Luke Goody, outstanding last night. I mean, that is a much different skill set. We talk about Turner to Bryant. It's kind of similar skill sets. And Malik Reneau is a good basketball player.
I know.
I don't want to ignore that.
That's the thing. He's not a bad player. He's a good player.
But it's just puzzle pieces, and it's fit. And, what does Purdue put around Zach Edey? Well, the best three-point shooting team in college basketball, or one of. We lose sight of the puzzle, I think, so often there. And so, what will happen when Reneau gets back? But again, Indiana, that to me is a little bit more of the professional side of it. Sluggish start, tied at halftime. It's a quad 3 thing, so, it's nothing. We would only talk about that game in significant detail
if they lost.
If they lost.
You're right.
So
they're down 10 early. I'm thinking, oh, God, we're going to do 3 hours of beating Indiana over the head tomorrow.
It's important to just handle the business. And like you said, the schedule now offers challenges, but also opportunity. And really, how much are these challenges? The Big Ten, it just is like, what the hell is the Big Ten?
Right. It's just okay.
I think
Iowa's a quad 1, but Iowa's not a good team.
Right. It's just it's a weird year for that conference.
Yeah, it is. I did see this morning right now, Joe Lenardi has 13 SEC teams making the tournament.
Just out yesterday morning,
and then they're not a tournament team. I think that's what's interesting right now. I have a difficult, and this is not for today, it's a bigger picture topic, but I don't really know what Indiana fans think of this team. I think there's been some frustration. There's always frustration with Woodson. I felt like they were disgusted last year. I don't get the same vibe this year, but of course, you're just a few games into Big Ten play. The reality is, and Malik Reneau should come off the bench, and if they change it up, it's a shame on Mike Woodson. Mike Woodson organically got to find his starting lineup. This is the starting lineup. You bring Malik Reneau off the bench. If you have, Mackenzie Mbako stunk it up offensively, just missing everything yesterday. So if that happens, you can piece things together. But you mentioned the last 3 games. I mean, Ballo, 23-8, 25-13, 17-12, shooting at a high clip. He shot 82% from the field. He is better when Malik Reneau is not next to him. And the offense with Trey Galloway and Miles Rice in the backcourt doing what they're doing, this right now is the best version of the Indiana Hoosiers. They got to keep pushing this type of basketball forward. They just have to. Mike Woodson, unfortunately for Malik Reneau, found out who he needed to kind of pull back some minutes on. And, obviously, Ballo's in foul trouble, or if there's an injury, you change things up. But this is too easy. The choice has been made for Mike Woodson going forward.
There's going to be, like Maryland, for example. When you face them, in the Big Ten, they are, 2 really quality bigs in Queen and Reese. So, there will be some times that you get into the season, and you're obviously going to want to rely on those 2. But for the most part, I think offensively, you want to spread it a little bit more. And certainly the results are hard to argue against. So again, very impressive second half, in particular last night down in Bloomington.
I just loved Muss Bus whining, cried, oh, the theatrics
he
on the
was
sideline.
gonna get tossed there late.
He's such a baby. He really is. I find him funny. I kind of like it. There's part of me, but otherwise it's like, dude, come on.
He's a good personality to have.
He's a personality, but USC's pretty far away from winning this year, like you mentioned. Just a quad 3 win. Sean McDonough coming up in about a half an hour on the other end. Your morning check down. What did Rick Carlisle say about the win last night? Plus, your news and scores from overnight. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's a Thursday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. I knew that's how it was going to be.
20 minutes from now, he will be on the call in 12 hours of Notre Dame and Penn State. The great Sean McDonough from ESPN. He's going to join us here coming up. We had him on before the Indiana game. Enjoyed the convo, so really looking forward to this one here tonight. But Andy Sweeney, I think you'll start with a little hoopage in the morning check.
Yeah, I mean, just basically an easy win for the Pacers. I got down to like 14 or so in the fourth quarter. They played with their food a little bit, but 4 straight wins, undefeated in 2025. All the wins by double digits, 10-plus points, including last night, KB, 129-113. That's your final down at the Fieldhouse. One guy we need to talk about, we did a little bit there in that opening segment, Thomas Bryant coming in for an ill Miles Turner. He started the game. He had 22 points and 8 rebounds in 28 minutes. Here's Rick Carlisle on Thomas Bryant.
He was great. I think 22 and 8. Played efficient, played smart. Seemed to always be at the right place at the right time. Had a couple of important putbacks at key moments of the game. And he brings a real positive energy just as a person out there too, along with being a heck of a player.
Yeah, it's quite the pickup for the Pacers. It really is. Up next for the group, they get Golden State. That's tomorrow, 6:30 here on the Fan. Reminder, Golden State is on a back-to-back. They play in Detroit tonight.
Yeah, Trace Jackson-Davis, again, playing a consistent role for them, but this is not your typical Golden State team at all. They've been reeling over the last month, but Steph Curry's been a little iffy on the back-to-backs. I think like 1 of 4 he's done the double dip this year, so something to keep an eye on for, I know, a lot of fans that have interest in that. All right, Bloomington last night, big second half from Indiana, 82-69 over the Trojans of USC. Eric Musselman very upset late in that game. Pretty wild. You score 82 and no Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako doesn't score. That is a big-time offensive effort from the likes of Umar Ballo, Miles Rice, Luke Goody. Again, he is in that starting lineup for Renew, and it is a whole lot of spacing around Umar Ballo, and I don't think it's any secret that Indiana has scored 84, 77, 82 in their last 3 Big Ten games. So, again, nothing that will really be impressive resume-wise. That's about to change. They're going to have a whole lot of opportunity now, but still, nonetheless, I think Indiana certainly offensively is playing better, and they take care of business at home last night over USC.
What kind of happened end of the game? You seem pretty frustrated.
I got no comment on that guy.
That's Musselman.
And that was
Woodson.
towards the official, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it was no, he did the blow-by on Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
I don't know what, and he got up and left right after that. Indiana people thought it was about Mike Woodson.
Really? I thought it was about the official. I mean, he wanted to murder that official.
Yeah.
And I think he just, I don't
Musselman's pissed off. His team stinks.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it is what
him
it
and
is.
Woodson got NBA beef.
That's what I thought. I was like, did these guys cross paths? And I just don't know. Quickly, college basketball as well. Purdue back in action tonight. They're on the road against Rutgers. I assume Dylan Harper will play in that game, so that'll be interesting. 6 o'clock. That one's on Fox Sports 1. And then the big one tonight, KB. You ready to go? National semifinal there in Miami. Notre Dame and Penn State. They get things going tonight at 7:30 on ESPN. Our coverage on the Fan ESPN radio begins at 6:30.
James Franklin stinks.
Listen, I'm ready. I don't like rooting for Notre Dame. I don't like that they're likable. I don't like that Marcus Freeman is liked. I want them to have a coach like Brian Kelly. But alas, here we are on the steps of the national title game.
This begins an absolutely epic 5-day stretch from a football sense. Again, tomorrow we'll get the Cotton Bowl. That is Ohio State and Texas. Then we start NFL Wild Card Weekend, and certainly right now a lot of thoughts with those in Southern California. The
Scary,
images
man.
just absolutely horrifying from those fires in kind of the Malibu, Pasadena area. The NFL did send out yesterday a contingency plan in place. Monday night is Rams hosting Vikings. So you think about, again, the Southern California teams. The Chargers will be at Houston. Sounds like they are still practicing. They will, obviously leave that would be, I guess, tomorrow, because I think they're the Saturday game. But Rams, Vikings, the contingency plan is in place for that game to be shifted to Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals play if necessary, but certainly much bigger worry in that part of the country. Boy,
those videos are scary, and there's a bunch of them on the internet. Well, let's take a break. Coming up in 20 minutes, a man who's going to be there tonight for the national semifinal, Sean McDonough. He joins us in 20 minutes here on this Thursday on The Fan.
I am equally as excited as I am horrified by something I just heard. Very excited.
I'm stunned.
You could
still.
say, whatever the joke is about 6 to midnight, potentially when I hear a song like that. Mark Dykton, thank you. That is the Rudy soundtrack. That's song number 8 for those that still have a CD player in your car. Jerry Goldsmith. That is called Take Us Out. Tryouts, track number 6, Andy, and Final Game, number 10 on the Jerry Goldsmith CD. I'd recommend those as well.
Yeah, we'll get to them, I'm
hopefully
sure.
after the show, maybe a
Okay.
10:01 listening experience for those in their cars. But the horrifying part is this. It takes a lot, I think, for you and I to have audible reactions during the break.
What do they call it? A guttural reaction? Is that what they call it?
Mine came deep, like behind those rolls you all saw, last Friday when I had the shirt off. Especially at 7:30 in the morning. Please share with our audience what Mark Dykton informed us.
Well, Mark Dykton gave a
Sean McDonough in 10 minutes,
Sean
by the
McDonough
way.
is going to join us in 10 minutes. Mark just casually, as we've been doing all this, goes, I've never seen Rudy.
Not even 1 second.
Right? And then what did you say about Hoosiers? You thought Hoosiers was
I've
overrated?
seen Hoosiers. I thought Hoosiers was overrated.
Mark's going
Which
right.
is like blasphemy in
Boy,
the state.
you're going right to the heart of the people in the state. Do you want to give a Peyton Manning was overrated take
No,
as
I
well?
like Peyton Manning.
Mark's going to be doing radio in Peoria coming up tomorrow.
Peyton Manning is one of my favorite drops on the show. Thank you, Peyton.
Mark's watching Kazam and Joanna Man and Bad News
Yeah.
Bears. Anything else on the list, Mark, that you're consuming over Rudy?
No, it's one of those ones that's just kind of, it's on like, it's kind of like, I feel like I'm a pretty big movie guy, and it's just one of those movies that has just eluded my viewing experience.
Here's what it is, Mark. If you haven't seen it
That is sick by Mark. I mean, I'm sorry. That is disgusting.
But if you haven't seen it by now, you're scanning around and Rudy's on, and now you're like, I'm not going to watch it now. You're with the wife, whatever. You got an hour to yourself. You're not going to watch Rudy. You're going to watch, like right now, The Sopranos is on like HBO. I'm watching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on TV all the time now. You're not going to go to Rudy. So Mark's at this point of his life where he's not going to learn anything else about Rudy.
I told him, I was like, you know what? Actually, if I can stream it somewhere, I'll watch it right before the game today, and I'll give like an honest review tomorrow.
It's the most millennial thing you've ever said.
I can't even find it on streaming. It's not available.
It's
I
not
can
on
purchase
Netflix?
it. I'm not purchasing
No.
Rudy if I've never
No.
seen it before.
Do you have it on DVD, KB? I'm asking. Do you?
VHS is what I used to watch.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm
Let me
but-
stop at the local library
I
and
had
get a
the
VHS
final,
player.
and I probably still do. I mean, I had the final 20 minutes memorized for a long
That's such
portion
a
of my life.
Nerd comment.
It really is.
Hey, what you doing here? Don't you have practice? Not anymore. I quit. Well, since when are you the quitting kind? Oh, just a great scene. Fortune and Rudy in the tunnel.
There will be a sign tonight. Rudy is overrated in attendance tonight in Miami. I mean, there's always that.
Well,
College game day whenever Notre Dame's
Let's not
involved.
get into signs you could have about Penn
Well,
State in their football program
yeah,
here. Do we want to play that game?
I don't think we want to play that game. It's a nice, uplifting Thursday. You have a big game tonight. Mike Woodson has a starting lineup. The Indiana Pacers have won 4 straight games.
That
We're going to talk to
disgusts me
Sean
from Mark
McDonough.
Dykton. Here he is watching Air Bud 4 instead of watching Rudy.
Don't you disparage the great name of Airbud, my friend.
Air Bud was on the other day. I watched about
Shaq's
60 seconds of
Kazam
it.
debut, winning multiple Oscars for that.
Let's just say, like, the sports movies don't really got as much run in my house as they used to with 4 women and me. I kind of get outvoted every single time. They'd
think
rather watch Muppet
Ashley
Babies.
would appeal quite nicely to the Rudy plot.
Okay. I'm looking
Not
for.
I don't even know if I call it a pure sports.
I'm
movie.
trying to find it on streaming. It isn't even on the streaming. So is it really that good if you can't even get it on a streaming service?
Quickly before we move on, is it bad parenting? Like my son Macy, about 16 months old. I know they'll watch anything on TV, and obviously he likes Bluey and a couple of those. Miss Rachel, who is on YouTube, who scares the absolute hell out of me, but she is obviously very popular. I
Got
don't know.
quite the voice.
I don't know if you guys ever frequent those shows at all, but he will lock into the worst TV. I mean, if The Sopranos is on, he will lock in for 10, 15 minutes on that, much more so than Miss Rachel.
Little gas watching The Wire.
Well, I mean,
with his father.
Mickey's like,
Big fan of summer, right? Maybe that's the
if
situation.
I put on like a rock and roll video, something where he will watch those things much more closely than he'll watch
Coco Melon.
some of the Coco Melon or Mickey Mouse or whatever other nonsense is on TV. I mean, the Hoosiers thing's a hot take too. Anyway, we can move on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Mark,
that's a
save
hot
that one
take.
for July 9th, not January 9th.
Yeah.
We got other things to get to today. Again, Sean McDonough coming up in a few. He's on the call tonight. We had him on before Notre Dame and Indiana. He is your play-by-play voice for tonight. Some Colts items we want to get to. Certainly the Jim Irsay postgame locker room speech turned into a whole lot of fire yesterday, so we'll hit on that. But, Andy, free agent-wise, we haven't really gone down this path yet. 2025 free agents for the Colts, about a half dozen starters that will hit free agency. Again, normal Chris Ballard would be running back with these guys. So let me throw out the names. Mo Alley-Cox, Kylan Granson. Remember Will Fries broke his leg in week 5?
Oh, yeah.
At right guard. Dayo Adengbo, EJ Speed, easy for me to say, and Julian Blackman. Those 6 names, who would you put in the category of bring back?
To start this conversation here for the next couple minutes, let me just kind of throw something out there. I guess it's a question back to you, but it's a bigger talking point. You know, DeForest Buckner came out a couple days ago and says there needs to be more competition. We know guys aren't going to be here. We need to check ego at the door. And I don't know if he's talking about any of these guys. Like, I don't think he's talking about Ryan Kelly, for instance.
Yeah, sorry, I should throw in Ryan Kelly's name.
So I just kind of wrote him down knowing that they might and probably will pass the torch there to Bortolini. But, you know, and by the way, Bortolini rated very high. And some of these lists that are coming out and, like, rookies that did, you know, it's not all just Malik Neighbors and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix. Yeah. You know, for me, I would say very few of them. You know, Dayo would be the one we talked about last week that I would probably put at the top of the list. But, you know, if the franchise is going to listen to the leader and DeForest Buckner is the leader, then you would have to imagine that there are going to be changes on defense, and some guys are not going to be brought back. Some guys that maybe you can get rid of, and contractually it's not going to kill you with a bunch of dead money. But, you know, there cannot be players like DeForest Buckner that come out and say there need to be changes and then do a team run it back. But I don't know. Again, we're asking Chris Ballard to be someone different than who he is. And so I don't know. I'm very interested in the schism here between we need to change things and Chris Ballard, who is a guy that at times is allergic to change. But, you know, for me, you know, Dayo would be maybe the only one. I mean, I like Blackman, but they're kind of playing him out of position, I feel like. And he got that 1-year deal last year. So, you know, Dayo would be the one. You know, to me, the rest of the guys, I like Ryan Kelly, but I think there is a passing of the baton there at the offensive line. Who would be the second guy on this list? That
I would
to me
go
is the
with
question.
Will Fries. I don't want to nerd out too much, but I thought Will Fries was playing pretty good football before the broken leg. They obviously started multiple right guards after him.
I think that's the thing. It's good to have, you know what, 8 guys, 8 guys on the offensive line at least.
I think when you look at this list, Andy, outside of Ryan Kelly to Bortolini, maybe Jalen Carlisle for EJ Speed, I don't see a lot of seamless passing of the torch. I mean, at tight end, like, Mo Alley-Cox is a very good blocker.
But isn't that what we want? I mean, to a certain extent, I don't want the passing of the torch. I want a free agent or two to come in and take the spot of EJ Speed.
So that's why I'm saying, like, will you re-sign some, but then also go on top of that in free agency, which to me doesn't seem like a big ask. For Chris Ballard, it seems like moving a boulder. So that would be something that I would ask out of those guys. But, you know, Adengbo, Fries would probably be the 2. You know, we'll do this when we get into the month of, you know, probably February, maybe even into March. I always do kind of the green, yellow, red categories. You know, green, you definitely bring back yellow. I'm kind of on the fence. Red, definitely not. You know, Blackman, maybe a little yellow. How much did the torn labrum affect him? You know, I mean,
he played with it for 3 months.
And then again,
which is unbelievable.
Is that just him? You know, are there injuries with him?
He didn't have a great year.
That either. Kylan Granson, by the way, 81 qualifying tight ends in the NFL. He was 80th in catch percentage of those 81 tight ends, so not the contract year.
What constitutes as them not doing team run it back?
Oh boy,
I know that's an in-depth question, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, that is the storyline this offseason, right? Is that they cannot sell to us what they sold to us last year. And I say that knowing that they very well may try. I say that, KB, knowing that right now they're basically selling us what we thought they would sell us, is that we're close. I mean, the video that everyone talked about on sports media yesterday here in the area with Jim Irsay yesterday was what? It was talking about, hey, we're close. We're 1-0 in 2025. Let's get back to work and play here or there, and we're a playoff team. I mean, that's like they surely – I say they surely can't do that, but the best the thing that's most likely is them doing that. That's the problem.
And I want to get back to that at some point here. Obviously, tonight down in Miami, it is the Orange Bowl, and it is my favorite broadcast team on the call. We've heard them throughout the playoffs here with Notre Dame. That is Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy. I believe, is it Molly McGrath and Katie George? I feel like those two have been on the sidelines as well. We appreciate his time on this game day. You heard him with us again before that Notre Dame and Indiana game. Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. The great Sean McDonough joins us. Sean, good morning. We can't thank you enough. We appreciate the time.
My pleasure, Kevin, Andy. Good to be back with you guys. I hope all's well. Happy New Year. Is it still Happy New Year? Or are we too far into the new year now that it's not new?
We had that debate. I think the first combo in the month of January, you're still allowed to say it.
All right. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I actually want to go back a couple weeks. We talked to you right before that Notre Dame and Indiana game. Obviously, the on-campus atmosphere, certainly the game, didn't have a whole lot of 60-minute back-and-forth appeal. But just what were your general thoughts on that atmosphere in that first-round matchup?
Oh, it was tremendous. We talked about it heading into it, how excited we were. Not only was it the first college football playoff game at the FBS level that was ever on a campus, but to have it be at Notre Dame, with all the history and tradition of college football there, it really was perfect. And then the atmosphere lived up to it. And it was a really exciting game for a while. There were the back and forth interceptions at the beginning of the game, which were key plays. I think I described the game as a dud during the game, which probably was a little more harsh than it needed to be, but wasn't really a compelling game that went right down to the wire. But hopefully we'll have one of those tonight.
Sean McDonough with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I'm thinking of storylines, and when you think of storylines so much in college athletics, you think of coaches, Sean. And Marcus Freeman is a guy who is still a very young and new coach there at Notre Dame with a lot to prove. And James Franklin, he can't win the big one, right? I mean, that was the conversation even this year, and now he's won a couple games in the college football playoff. How big is that storyline that these two head coaches are really proving something in year one of the expanded college football playoff?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a part of it. I think for most Penn State people and probably college football fans and observers around the country, I'm not sure James Franklin has really shed the can't win the big one. I mean, they have won 2 playoff games in this tournament, but they're against SMU and Boise State. And, a lot of people are saying, yeah, that was nice, but, now you're playing Notre Dame. So I think tonight would be a huge step toward getting rid of that label if they could win the game. To me, the knock obviously on Marcus was, the surprising losses, Marshall and Stanford, and this year Northern Illinois. But having been around them a lot now, as you said, this is the 3rd straight Notre Dame game that we've done in the playoff and the 4th this year. I think he's proven to me that he's the right man for the job. Just the vibe around the program. And it really starts with him, his leadership abilities, the way he relates to people, that's all been on full display. And I think when you talk to his coordinators, Al Golden and Mike Denbrock, who've been around for a long time, they are effusive in their praise of Marcus and the job that he does, really handling every aspect of that program. So, obviously they're going to make history. Whichever one of them wins will be the first black coach to go on to the a championship game in this format, which goes back to 1998, if you count the BCS, where we've actually had a true national championship game. And I thought it was kind of a window into who Marcus is. And when he was asked about that by Hannah Storm on SportsCenter the other day, he gave a very thoughtful answer about the history part of it, but then he also turned it right back to it's really a team thing, and he wants the focus to be on the team accomplishment if that's what happens.
You know that voice quite well. You'll hear it 12 hours from now. We'll be getting kicked off in Miami. It is a hell of a helmet game. Notre Dame and Penn State coming up here in our first of 2 college football semifinals. Again, Ohio State, Texas tomorrow from the Cotton Bowl. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath, Katie George on the call. Sean, when you look to keys, certainly you look at the Vegas line. I mean, it's pretty much a pick 'em. Maybe Notre Dame a slight favorite. What will you and Greg be kind of getting to early in the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I think the number one thing will be the health of some key players on each side. Obviously Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back, has been battling a knee injury that he suffered at the end of the regular season against USC. He tweaked it again against Georgia. He's been wearing a brace in practice. A little bit of video that we've seen from practice, it doesn't look like he's moving as well as he typically does, but They think he's going to give it a go. How effective he is, I think, will be important. And on the Penn State side, Abdul Carter, their terrific defensive end, didn't play in the second half of their quarterfinal win against Boise State with a shoulder injury. He's been dealing with that in the lead up to this game, limited in practice. I think it's going to be a game-time decision, but you would expect that he would try to give it a go given the magnitude of the game. But how well those guys play and how effective they are. Now the good thing is they have capable backups for both of those guys if they can't go. I think the other thing is turnovers. Notre Dame's been one of the best in the country. They lead the country in takeaways. They've been right there near the top all year in turnover margin. They were +2 against Georgia, which you guys watched the game. That was a huge part of it. I think Notre Dame has an edge in special teams. But it's Penn State on the takeaway. They've had 7 takeaways in the 2 wins in this tournament against Boise State and SMU. So, I think turnover margin a lot of times when it comes down to a game that seems to be pretty even is often the deciding factor.
Sean, I'm just wondering. I didn't know if I was going to like the expansion of the college football playoff, but I've liked it. I'm sure you guys see the ratings, and the ratings have been great. How do you like it? How do you like the different storylines in a different way that college football is picking their national champion?
I love it, and I've been a proponent of expanding it past 4 for a long time. I was sympathetic to Florida State last year when they were number 5 and got left out as an undefeated team. So I think going to 12 eliminates that. I know there was some angst about who the last couple of teams were in, and did some of the SEC teams that didn't get in not benefit from the decision that perhaps should have gone their way. I'm sorry if you're number 11, 12, 13. You didn't do enough. You lost 3 games. You really don't have an argument. So I like it. I love the first-round playoff games. I know there's some talk about going to 14 or 16 teams in the next few years. I'd like to see them keep it the way it is right now. I thought the first-round games on campuses were awesome. And as you said, and another one of the bits of trepidation about expanding it was the number of games that you played. These 2 teams tonight are both going to set the school record for most games played in the season. In the case of Penn State, it's going to be their 16th game, which hasn't happened for an FBS team since 1894 when Yale went 16-0. No teams played 16 games at this level. But we talk to players and coaches on both sides of the week, and it's not like, oh, my God, we're so banged up and I can't believe we're playing another game. There's no talk about that. They're just fired up to have another chance to go out there and play. So I do think that concern, to me, is out the window just based on talking to the people who are actually playing the games.
On a game day, very gracious with his time, Sean McDonough, the play-by-play voice. You'll hear him tonight from the Orange Bowl, and we will end our conversation with Sean with this. I hate to put you in a third-party position, but we must do this, Sean. We learned earlier in the show, our producer, Mark Dykton, who you spoke to at the start of the show, 2 items on Mark's resume. He hates the movie Hoosiers, and he's never seen the movie Rudy. He's approaching 40 years old, this man. Do we ship him to Siberia tomorrow to do radio, or are you content with this?
Well, I would send him home and have him watch both movies, first of all.
Yeah.
That should, at least give him the chance to correct what is an egregious wrong in a lifetime, I'm sure, of major accomplishments so far, including being a part of this magnificent show.
Hey, amen.
I played golf, I guess it was last summer, 2 summers ago, in Minnesota, and there was a young man who was caddying for me who was probably a high schooler. And I was reciting lines from Caddyshack, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, you know what? Hey, if you're going to caddy, I know the movie came out way before you were born, but you need to go find Caddyshack, and you should understand all these references.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell him to go pick the range.
Yeah, and I told him I never slice. I'll never belong to Bushwood. There's one of the great movies of all time. But, I think Rudy and Hoosiers should definitely be on Mark's itinerary here in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
As my dear departed dad used to say, it's only a mistake if you don't correct it. So let's get Mark to correct those mistakes.
You hear that? Thank you to Mr. McDonough.
Yeah, it's never
It's
too
on
late.
my wish list.
For
I'll
that.
try.
Thank you for that. We are doing radio in Indianapolis, Indiana, of all places. Sean,
especially given the geography and the proximity there, that seems like a kind of a major gaffe.
Amen. Amen to that. Well, as a diehard golf fan, I do love you on golf as well, but as also an unapologetic Notre Dame fan, cannot wait for tonight. Sean, outstanding the last 2 games. Your crew has been very, very good. Really looking forward to
You always like the announcers when you win. That's one thing I found in my career.
But I think your candor.
People hate the announcers. You're biased against the team when they lose. And when you win, you're awesome. I have had so much response from Notre Dame fan friends of mine or just people I've been walking into in airports and that sort of thing. And it's been fun. You know, that I will say this, it's a classy program, you know, from top to bottom, and just a great vibe being around the Notre Dame program. And I think it's great for college football when they're successful at this level.
Yeah, I think the likability with Marcus Freeman is something that is very welcome.
I've read a bunch of articles that, you know, he's managed to make Notre Dame likable for people who don't like Notre Dame, and I think that's true. I think, you know, it's the kind of person he is really just comes through whenever you hear him interviewed. I referenced that interview with Hannah Storm. You know, the answer he gave about maybe being the first black coach to be in the championship game was just unbelievable and 100% sincere, you know. So I think the likability factor, he's a big part of it.
Yeah, culture I know is a big buzzword. I think it's pretty real with him and that program. Sean McDonough tonight on the Orange Bowl call. Sean, we can't thank you enough. Safe travels to wherever you're off to next, and looking forward to tonight.
All right. Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
The great Sean McDonough right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. I said it a couple weeks ago, Andy. I know you weren't in here for the interview. Love his passion.
That's great, yeah.
He is a college football fan that happens to be excellent at his job.
Oh, he's great.
Like
college basketball,
he's a fan
golf,
first. When you hear
football.
that,
oh yeah,
that's
he's
no
great.
robot. That is a college football fan. That is a tremendous play-by-play.
Well, Andy's right. The IU Notre Dame game, for the most part, was a dud. Large parts of that game is kind of a dud. It's okay to say it.
Mark, check your Venmo. We'll explain more coming up in the 8 o'clock hour.
Oh, I like that. Venmo, okay.
Venmo.
I don't even know Mark's Venmo.
Lovely picture for Mark and the girls on Venmo, by the way.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know that was my picture.
Okay, well, there we go. We got to. You
might have sent it to a fake account.
We'll dive into Mark's Venmo. Okay.
Really hope Mark Dykton's fake account. I didn't just send $3.99.
His hidden bank account that he keeps from his wife. We'll dive into that. I have a thought on tonight's game, and then obviously back to the basketball last night. 8 o'clock hour around the corner right here. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Man. I'll tell you what, we're an hour into this show on a Thursday morning. I would call my relationship with Mark Dykton through the first hour a bit high schoolish. We're going to homecoming one day.
You're breaking up the next.
I'm texting his best friend the next day.
You know, there's a good amount of people that are vomiting over all this Notre Dame stuff in their car going to work. It's the last thing they want to hear about.
I mean, is it not somewhat deserved? I mean, they're in the final freaking four.
It is deserved. I'm just saying there's people that are vomiting in their mouth.
By the way,
with all the
brutal
Notre
loss
Dame stuff.
in Raleigh last night for Coach Shrews and company. That's 2 1-point losses in a row.
Yeah. You and Butler might be facing off in the NIT first round the way it's going right now.
You might have to win a certain amount of games.
You have to be over 500. Yeah.
We will get to some audio that I think paints the accurate picture on the Colts here upcoming in a few minutes. I thought the Jim Irsay post-game audio that we touched on really this time yesterday was a very inaccurate depiction of what needs to be said about the Colts season. And ironically enough, a few minutes after Irsay spoke, one of his own players, I thought, said that accurate statement. So we'll play that here. Upcoming in a few. Again, thank you to Sean McDonough. He'll be on the call tonight. Orange Bowl just joined us from ESPN. Andy, I said before the break, I informed Mark Dykton to check his Venmo.
Yes, you did.
Account. Mark, you want to share what was recently sent to you in your Venmo account?
Yeah, you sent. I got a payment for $3.99 from Kevin Bowen, and it just says movie night.
Oh, that's great. Did you?
So I believe you're telling me
$3.99.
$3.99. Shout out to listener Brent. Brent, about 20 minutes ago, sends me, "Hey Kev, can we get a GoFundMe going for Mark to rent Rudy? I'm in for $1." You know, Brent, thank you. You know, the radio business, I don't know if we'd call it financially flourishing, but I can handle $3.99. To buy, it would have been $14.99.
Nah, you don't need to do all that.
So it's not good enough to buy, is what you're saying.
Well, I
it's
mean,
good enough to watch
I would have
once.
bought, but I believe, if I'm looking at this correctly, Apple TV, Mark.
Yep.
There is your $3.99. Mark Dykton
You didn't cover the tax, though.
Never watched the movie Rudy and hates the movie Hoosiers.
It's not that I hate it.
Whoa,
it's fine.
Let's not try and spin cycle this the deeper we get into the show.
No. Let's not put hate on there. I just thought it was overrated. It was
You
fine.
said you'd rather watch Kazam, Bad News Bears, and Joanna Man.
I've never seen Joanna Man. Kazam, is that the Shaq movie or is that the fake Sinbad movie?
No, that's Shaq, yeah.
I've seen that one a long time ago.
Sinbad is still with us, is he not?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
He's had a stroke, though. So,
Okay.
Really?
yeah. He's
Starting
in
to
rough
bring the
shape.
show down. Growing up, I liked some of the Sinbad movies. That's
And
the
Bad
reason I
News
asked.
Bears, I think I've maybe seen bits and pieces of the Walter Matthau. I've never seen the Billy Bob Thornton version. So if you want to throw $3.99 that way, I'll watch that one
I
too.
don't know if I've seen that one either. I got to be honest.
I am generally shocked, given Mark Dykton's, just affinity for movies, I guess, that somehow, some way, you've never seen Rudy.
Like I have a list written down of like movies I should have watched that I never have, and Rudy is on that list. So I will take that $3.99. Thank you very much. And I will watch it. I will try to watch it before the playoff game tonight and I'll offer reviews as I'm watching it.
Here's what sickens me. What sickens me is we have all these different things
this is really
we're paying
Notre Dame
for.
puke fest.
Well, it is,
right.
but we have like Netflix. That's costing what, $15 plus a month. You got Amazon Prime. You have all the the Amazon stuff. You have Apple TV. There's always these different subscriptions, and we can't have Rudy where now he's got to pay $3.99 more.
Well,
I know it's your money, but now he's got to pay $4 more. Like it's not enough to be spending hundreds of dollars on all these different services. Okay, now he's got to spend $4 more for a movie that was made. Back in the when was it made? Early
93?
1993. I mean, come on.
If I want to watch Rudy, I should be able to do it. If I want to watch Three Ninjas Kick Back, I should be able to watch that whenever I want to too, with all these streaming services.
A shout out to my dad.
What's Pops up to?
Tell Mark I have the VHS tape of Rudy if he'd like to borrow it.
Yeah, that's not going to be helpful.
Well, I'll go to the library and watch it. Thank you very much, Mr. Bowen.
Just rent out a room in the Brownsburg Library there, and boom.
Watch party.
Hour
Come
and
on
45
down
minutes
to the
later,
Brownsburg Public Library.
Clean up the popcorn off the ground, and Mark Dykton
Room
has
107.
Scott Agnes
Right
talking
after the
Pacers
PTA meeting.
with us at 8:30. Again, the update from, I guess, Chris Ballard is nothing today in all likelihood. No announcement from the Colts on when his season-ending presser will be. Selfishly, I kind of hope it's not a little Friday news dump acts like, this was planned. Obviously, this is not planned, but I hope the Friday news cycle doesn't get swallowed up, and I would say one of the more anticipatory press conferences in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're going to have to talk about it on Monday regardless.
I
don't know
like
if
it
it's
to
going to
be
be
Monday
on
at
Friday.
this point.
But,
You know?
okay, so I didn't know there was a rule. I can't remember if it was Jake talking about this or JMV or I don't know. I think it was maybe JMV talking with Nate Atkins yesterday. So they have to I didn't know this. I got to be honest. So they have to do it within a week
Yes.
of,
Yeah, the NFL,
of ending the season. So they ended their season on Sunday. So it's got to be, if it's not tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be tomorrow, right? Or then you go into the week. It can't be Monday, can it?
I don't want to get super detailed with these rules because I don't know if an illness would all of a sudden influence those rules. But yeah, basically the NFL mandates when your season comes to a close, players have one final open locker room session, which occurred on Monday. The coach meets the media within, I assume it's within a week. Maybe it's actually within, 48 hours of the season ending. Obviously, Shane Steichen did that on Monday. We played some of that audio. And then your GM is required to meet here within the next week. And after today, or excuse me, after whenever Ballard talks, the next time we would hear from him is Combine. So that would be late February. Usually we kind of split that up every other year with our shows. We had Ballard on this past February. We had Steichen on the year before. So I think we would be in line for Steichen, I think, at this point, if we continue to rotate. And then typically, I'm trying to think when else we would hear from Ballard. League meetings in late March. That's either Florida or Arizona. I forget where it is this year. And then draft. You hear from him pre-draft, and you hear from him during the draft, and then pre- and post-training camp.
You think Steichen likes Rudy? Well, it's a process. He worked really hard. It's a process.
Yeah, I could see him liking it.
He did his job.
Yeah,
It's a process.
I could see him liking it. He'd probably like that pass rusher, frankly.
You think he would?
I still like the Rudy would have started at JMU. That was my favorite shirt I saw at the Notre Dame Indiana game.
Oh, that's great. That is pretty funny. Well, they win tonight. You'll be off to the national title. Gosh. And that's how close you are.
And if not, I'm canceling the Airbnb at 11:48 p.m.
Yeah, 11:48
p.m. Sean McDonough signs us off.
Hundreds of them will be
from
happening.
The Orange Bowl. I want to hit this audio. Again, yesterday around the 8:30 segment, Andy, you brought up a question that I thought was a very well thought of question of, has Jim Irsay mandated to Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen playoffs or bust? Playoffs or you're gone for 2025. And I said, I don't necessarily think that answer is as clear as you just put it out. And I brought up the example from Sunday's post-game locker room, and I know it got really viral. It almost feels like as we signed off on air yesterday about Jim Irsay, among other things in that post-game locker room on Sunday, saying on multiple occasions how proud he was of the Colts for being 1-0 in 2025. For coming back and finishing 8-9, and
it's unbelievable. You saying it's unbelievable.
I guess
just really
to kind of regurgitate what I said yesterday. It sounded like a dad joke. Frankly, the 1-0 in 2025 sounded like something that one of us would say and laugh at it and hope that others would laugh with us. I was stunned, I was stunned, but I also probably shouldn't be too surprised because I think that's how Jim Irsay views his organization right now and views the standard and the moving of goalpost within that building. And I thought, ironically, as I shook my head at that, I nodded numerously through Joe Flacco coming to the podium. And I think it's important to mention the context, Andy. Joe Flacco comes to the podium on Sunday afternoon. I would say, 5 minutes, 7 minutes if you wanted to get super technical, after Jim Irsay had just said those words in the locker room.
Yeah, it did align perfectly, did it not?
And Mark, you've included the question, right, in this audio clip?
Uh-huh.
This is the full, Dave Griffiths from Fox 59, CBS 4 here in town, asked this question to Joe Flacco, and Flacco gave an answer in regards to, I would say, kind of a similar question about, hey, how close are they, is the general thought. Let's play this audio now.
From your experience in the league, a team that's going to finish one or two games out of the playoffs, how close are teams like this usually to taking that next step?
There's a ton of plays you could probably look at and say, you could probably pick 5 plays and say that's how close we are. But then you could also probably do the same thing in the other direction and say, but yeah, we could have, there's always that back and forth. There's a reason that, you kind of finish around this area. I think when you ultimately just become better, then those things start to go in your favor because, if you looked at it right now, there's just probably a lot of 50-50 things. For the one that we could have had, there's another one that we couldn't have had. So we just need to change that balance a little bit. And the only way to really do that is to get a little bit better. I think it's a lot like a lot of stats and all those things that are brought up today. I think you can kind of manipulate it into saying, oh, we were so close, or oh, we weren't, however you want to put it, we weren't that far away. But it's being able to look at the different things and the ins and outs of those and really dissect what the issue was. That's the thing with analytics these days. I think, especially when you're 8 and 9. When you're 8 and 9, there's probably a ton of spots where you could look and convince yourself that we were almost there. I don't necessarily think that's the right mindset. I don't think we should be trying to trick ourselves into thinking that we're almost there. I think we should acknowledge, yeah, we are almost there, but we're not there. And I think when you acknowledge that, you free yourself up to get better and take that next step.
It's one of the best quotes of the season for me. It's a great quote from Joe Flacco. He was worth the $5 million because of that quote.
When he says don't trick yourself, that, to me, I think is just so spot on. I think the Colts tricked themselves into acting and thinking they are on the doorstep. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. You had 8 one-possession wins. So let's not play the 1 or 2 plays on the flip side of it. If you want to play that card, if you want to flip all the one-possession games, the Colts would have had a worse record. They'd be drafted in the top 10.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. You don't want to do that.
They
exactly.
had losses by 18 and 18 and 10 and 12 late in the season. You're not flipping those with 1 or 2 plays. So that right there from Flacco. And ironically, he's one of the only, he might be the only, I don't know, maybe there's a couple guys randomly, the only Super Bowl winner in that locker room from a player standpoint. And I find it beyond ironic, Andy Sweeney. He says that quote opens up to that level 5 minutes after Jim Irsay says something I would argue very opposite in tone and in message.
I have several thoughts here. There is no doubt that Joe Flacco, with some of the nonsense that has happened,
he would laugh.
In this locker room, him being on some of the teams with a leader like Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, and what those Ravens teams were and what they stood for, and I would imagine the way that they did it the right way for all those years, some of the crap that he probably saw and some of the stuff that they've been able to keep somewhat quiet, I guess. I mean, when Shane Steichen talks after the season, he acts like he's been fining guys all year, and there's, ego issues and missed practices and, all the Pat McAfee stuff. It's like Joe Flacco had to be looking around. It's like, I'm going to play here. I'll take the money that they gave me, but these guys are a bunch of knuckleheads. I mean, he had to be thinking that at points this season. And I think what's important here, and this goes for whenever Chris Ballard meets with the media, and I mean this, Ballard will, at some point during his press conference, and you know this, KB, because you've been on this side of it, he will lament how mean the media has been in some sort of way to him. Not the case. The people that have spoken up that we care about are Joe Flacco and DeForest Buckner. Those are the 2 main guys after your losing season that have come out and that have said things need to be better. There needs to be more competition. There's ego. There's complacency. Some guys basically saying don't need to be back. That's not radio guy, okay? That's not TV guy. That's not newspaper guy. That's DeForest Buckner, and it's Joe Flacco saying quite the opposite thing that, like you mentioned, KB, 5 or 6 minutes before that the owner mentioned. The other thing, and this, I believe this, that is such a disconnect with fans that they think they can roll if they say that, if Ballard says that, I know Irsay said it, they think they can just roll out there the same sorry excuse and people aren't going to buy it. It's a dangerous mindset to have in a cutthroat business like the NFL, the quote-unquote, we're close. It makes me think they needed to lose the Jacksonville game. I mean, what's Irsay going to say then if they would have lost the Jacksonville game? He's acting like the Jacksonville game means something, but I'm telling you, it's not sports radio guy. It's DeForest Buckner, it's Joe Flacco that are saying, you guys need to check the way you view your own organization. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah, two guys that have been to the mountaintop in the NFL. And, Flacco specifically, I think back to his own history as a quarterback in Baltimore. Of course, drafted out of Delaware, long-time starter there. And they had a 9-win season in 2017. And the draft rolls around April of 2018. And that was your heavy quarterback early draft. That was the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. The Colts traded back, and took Quentin Nelson. That is a 9-win Baltimore team that decided in that draft, after just winning 9 games, trading up 20 spots to draft Lamar Jackson. When, I think Flacco has proven, it's not like he was walking up the 18th hole.
No, he wasn't
back
washed.
in 2017. I mean,
Right.
hell, I still think he can be not necessarily a high-level starter. I'm not saying that, but he obviously can still play football even now. They trade up 20 spots to draft Lamar Jackson after just winning 9 games. Again, these are franchises that don't live in complacency. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, 1, 2, and 3 in the AFC. I've said this a million times. All of them, the seasons prior to getting their quarterbacks, they have had very similar seasons to what Baltimore had the year before getting Jackson. Buffalo was in the playoffs the year before. Kansas City still had Alex Smith, and they were winning above 500. And yet they felt the need to do significant swings at that position. And, am I acting like the Colts all of a sudden, whatever, trade the farm for Shedeur Sanders? No. I'm not saying that. But you need to take swings and not live in this continuity, retention, in-house guys are the most incredible things in the world. That's all that matters. Of your 8 captains, you've had a playoff drought that's 4 years long, Andy. It's the longest you've had in 30 years. Of your 8 captains, there's only 1 that you've put into this roster since that playoff drought started, and that's Anthony Richardson.
Right. It's the guy you drafted.
All those other captains, all 7 of them,
Yep.
have been here since the playoff drought started 4 years ago. You got to inject something new. And it starts at the top, because when the message is that, and Joe Flacco's got to go to the podium and reiterate the proper message, it's a cultural issue.
That Flacco comment came after the speech, right? Or did it come before in the post game?
It came
6
after.
to 7 minutes after
Okay.
Jim
That's some
Irsay.
listeners were asking.
Again, Joe Flacco's sitting there thinking, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl winner, as a guy who has been great in this league and played on, the Ravens have been one of the models of consistency in all sports.
In a brutal division.
In a brutal division, and in the NFL where, after a couple years, it's designed to take you down a peg. I mean, it is designed where, not every year you're great. I know we've had some teams that are. This dude's got to be sitting there thinking, what are these guys thinking? I think, let me ask you this. You think we get the same rhetoric from Chris Ballard? I know what we're going to get from Jim Irsay.
Yeah, I expect...
Him being disconnected is not surprising. I mean, Ballard sounds like a guy that very much listens to what people are saying about him and his program.
I expect a Hollywood performance from Ballard.
That's a good way to
Will
put
be
it.
Rudy-esque.
Yeah.
Who did the impersonation of him yesterday?
Oh,
help
Joey
me.
Molinaro, our guy.
Dude, it was so good.
Boy, Joey's really good with
his
Ballard.
Molinaro was very,
And I think Ballard
his
has
Ballard's
told
good.
him he's really good. I don't know if he still feels that way. Today maybe, but I went. This is how it shows you how sorry of a life that I live. I went back and watched Ballard's season-ending presser, some snippets of it from last year and the year prior. I mean, he can fall on the sword. He'll have the long pauses.
It doesn't mean anything
He'll
anymore.
have the cuss words.
You're exactly right.
He'll have the strong statements.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he will be very good in front of that camera.
He'll tell you how difficult it is to win in the NFL.
He will be. I have no doubt that he will be very high. He will be much different than Shane Steichen in front of the microphone.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
But again, I choose to think the Joe Flacco reality of the audio reigns a little bit more. Scott Agnes here coming up in 5. Speaking of that, morning check down, I believe we'll start there with the Pacers and another double-digit win.
The morning checkdown brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Pacers remain undefeated in the new year, 129-113. Your final, Thomas Bryant off the bench last night. Got the start for an ill Miles Turner. He had 22. Big night for Pascal Siakam with 26. Tyrese Halliburton, another double-double, 16 and 13 in the win. Here's Halliburton, undefeated in the new year.
I think we just went into these games locked in, playing the right way. We looked at the start of the new year as, a fresh start for us as a group. Obviously, the end of 24 and just the, first how many games this season that was, weren't great. And we knew we wanted to get back to 500 and get beyond that. So our goal is just taking it one game at a time, continuing to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, now 2 games above 500 are the Pacers. Next up, the Golden State Warriors in town tomorrow. Our coverage 6:30 right here on The Fan.
Shout out Thomas Bryant. That trade, wonderful for the Pacers. Gave up hardly anything. And I think skill set wise, the similarities between him and Miles Turner are important. Last night, Turner's ill. Boom. All of a sudden, Bryant goes in the starting lineup and rather seamless there. So very nice from the Pacers last night. Again, 2 games above 500 for the first time all season. Speaking of very nice, down there in Bloomington, the second half especially for the Hoosiers last night. No Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, a very rough night with 0 points, yet Indiana still scores 82. They take care of USC 82-69 with a big second half there. Certainly a sluggish start, but the new Marballo, Miles Rice, Luke Goody in the starting lineup for Malik Renew, 16 for him. All 3 of those guys, big players. And again, we've said it. We said it in the opening hour. I just think the spacing with one big is something you can't ignore. Last 3 Big Ten games, 84, 77, 82 points. You won't find 3-game stretches like that in the Mike Woodson era where this team is scoring at that level.
Other college basketball news, Purdue in action tonight. They're on the road at Rutgers. That one's 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. And then obviously the big one tonight, it's Notre Dame and Penn State. Our coverage beginning at 6:30 right here on The Fan. If we had Sean McDonough on, who will be on the call on ESPN, you miss it, check it out in the podcast center, 1075thefan.com. You got anything else?
Yeah, we'll hit on a key there. We should mention Butler. It's now 8 straight losses. Thad Matta this 3rd year not going at all what they thought. You bring back your top 2 scorers.
Yeah, I'm
you're
surprised.
thinking NCAA tournament. And, the non-conference, there were some red flags. I know they had a couple good wins in the non-con, but they also had those horrific losses at home here. 8 straight losses. That is the longest streak for Butler since I was 1 year old.
Wow. I'm surprised.
They're bringing in the best recruiting class in their program's history next year.
I'm still surprised.
And you're seeing some of these coaches that have done it a long time in college basketball not love the environment. Thad has never really expressed that when he's joined us, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I thought if not a tournament team, they would at least be right there knocking on the door all season. But they're not even keeping your interest into February at this point. Let's take a break. On the other side, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files. He joins us next.
Again, a big thanks to Sean McDonough. Day of the game, he hops on with us. He's on the call tonight. Greg McElroy, Katie George, Molly McGrath, 7:30 from the Orange Bowl, Notre Dame and Penn State. It is an off day for the Pacers, back in action. I would say easily one of the more anticipated opponents of the season in their building coming up tomorrow. That would be the Warriors, Steph Curry, Trace Jackson-Davis, and company. To talk more about all of it, Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files joins us. Scott, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Doing well.
Scott, you ever seen Rudy?
I have. Not for a while, but I've seen it many times.
Do you have an opinion on Hoosiers as a movie?
Yeah, the best sports movie there is.
Scott, about an hour ago, maybe exactly an hour ago at this time, Mark Dykton, who you know well, you speak with him on a weekly basis. Yeah. Mark Dykton informed us that he had never seen the movie Rudy, and he thinks Hoosiers stinks.
It's overrated.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Sounds like he has some homework this weekend from you. It sounds like.
Kevin has Venmo'd me $3.99 to rent Rudy, so I'm going to try to watch it before the game tonight, and I will offer an honest review. But Hoosiers I've watched, and I was like,
Scott, what do we do? I mean,
all this talk about Hoosiers,
I
was like, this is it. This is the movie.
He also thinks Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning were overrated. So
now we're getting out of control.
The Bob Knight, he's overrated. Him and Jim Cady, what did they do? What did they accomplish?
Yeah, Mark, we need to change that ASAP.
Okay. I've been to Plum's Last Shot. I just Hoosiers. Not
Plum's Last good. You got a burger and fries from Plum's Last Shot.
But the movie itself, I'm like, all right, Gene Hackman was fine. This movie's not as great though.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files with us. We will transition here.
it.
Scott, Jeremiah Johnson told us yesterday if the Pacers win by double digits, it will be the first time since 2015 that they've won 4 in a row by double figures. They do that last night. What do you point to right now in why they're playing easily their best basketball of the season?
Yeah, I think first of all it starts with Andrew Nembhard. I can't understate his value to this team. Then more than that, I think what I've really liked is what they've done defensively. It just seems like there's a more overall commitment to that end of the floor. It feels like there's an attitude finally a little bit there. While it's not perfect, it's not every single possession. It's a lot more frequently. And guys are communicating, it seems like, and having a lot of more success there. Then if you go off, because with Nembhard being back all this month, then that's opened things up for Tyrese, and he's playing a lot more consistent, which has led to a lot more consistency from this team as a whole, which is I still think one of their biggest flaws still so far is stringing them together. So the fact that they've done like 10 of 14 now, 4 in a row, that's trending in the positive direction. But to me, it all starts with Andrew Nembhard's return from injury.
This is a leading question, but how good of a fit is Thomas Bryant? Did you think he would be this good of a fit?
Yeah, I thought he would be solid, and I think he's more than a stopgap. I think that's what Moses Brown was, coming from the G League from Westchester. He's a guy that, all right, well, we need somebody with size that can go out there, get some rebounds, and maybe foul a couple times for 10 minutes. But Thomas fits this group a little bit more. One, because he can stretch the floor and has a shot. Brown couldn't shoot outside of 5 feet, whereas Thomas, you can see, can not only shoot the three comfortably, but in fact teammates are encouraging him to shoot more from out there. There was a possession early in last night's game where you could hear Tyrese on the TV broadcast say, shoot it. And then the other big thing, maybe more underrated, and especially IU fans would remember and recognize this, is he has this emotional, energetic character to him.
He does.
One of the more hilarious trends, Andy, I've noticed is defensively, he grunts and makes noises as he's being backed down, and
he called for the ball on Kobe's breaking point total.
What's that? Sorry.
I said he was calling for the ball when Kobe was trying to break the scoring title.
About that.
Yeah, there's that classic visual. So I thought he would be solid, and I think that's exactly what he has been. Now, he obviously went off and was special more so last night. But I think this is why it was so important for the front office to go out and get them a serviceable backup center. And I've actually been surprised he hadn't played a few more minutes more. 15 to 18 per game, but really good, strong showing, as you said last night.
Fieldhouse Files, where you find his work. Scott Agnes is with us here, Payless Liquors Hotline. He was all over this story. He broke it several weeks ago, and I think it was announced officially earlier this week. Scott, tomorrow, for Pacers fans that do not have Bally/FanDuel TV, whatever the hell it's called, WTHR will be carrying the first of 5 games for the Pacers the rest of this season. It is the Warriors tomorrow night. Any sort of details we should note? I think just the Fever did this earlier in the year. It was pretty simple. You just flip over to your NBC affiliate, and it'll be simulcast, right? You'll get Chris Quinn and JJ?
Yes, that's exactly right. The difference from the Fever game is the Fever game was the actual broadcast on that channel, only for that channel, whereas this is that direct FanDuel Sports Network broadcast that is also airing. As many fans might consider it as, say, Colts are on Prime Video, it'd be like if the game was on Wish TV or on RTV6 as well. So it's in addition to, and they're going to have Rich Nye there reporting, I think, before the game, probably at halftime and after perhaps. But for the most part, this is exactly going to be the same broadcast, but it opens it up to a significantly larger portion of fans out there, and it's free. So for those that have issues or are on streaming only or don't subscribe to anything, it helps remove a barrier. And so the biggest thing is it also provides more network or marketing opportunities. And so this is a real data point, KB, for the Pacers and for the entire league, because many other teams in the league are doing this. There's 13 teams that have deals with with FanDuel Sports Network. And so it's a big data point that they can realize, is this the area? Do we need to go more towards this area, or does it not justify the money lost by leaving a regional sports network?
I love Rich Nye. Let me throw that in there. That man is an absolute pro. Scott Agnes with us here again, Fieldhouse Files. Kind of on that end, I feel like tomorrow, and you'd be a good person to ask, I feel like it's the most anticipated home game of the season. And I don't want to act like the Warriors are a great team this year. They're not. But I look at the secondary ticket market right now, and part of it is it's Steph, and it's the one trip to Gamebridge all year.
Yep.
But, like, Scott, the cheapest ticket to watch Cleveland, coming up the other night, or I guess that's a road game. Let me go with 76ers, okay? 76ers come in town here in a week. $9 right now, the cheapest ticket. For tomorrow night, it's $44.
Wow.
I think, like, Steph, Golden State, and I would say even a little Trace Jackson-Davis, would you think tomorrow night is kind of the biggest home game, just given the opponent and some of the players on it?
Yeah, going into probably the last 6 or 7 years, I'd say, probably since 2015 or so, this has been the number one ticket.
More than LeBron?
Is always, I was going to say, that's usually number 2, I think, here in recent history. Ever since we saw that Warriors dynasty for their 4 years or so, just because Steph and the appeal, I mean, you probably see it with your kids and their friends and such. Like, how many kids are just walking around preschool or whatever wearing Steph Curry jerseys? And then after that is
Caramel
LeBron
Pups
and the
night,
Lakers. Oh, say that again.
It's Caramel Pups night. They might as well honor the Caramel Pups at halftime, and they'll all be out there with their Steph Curry jerseys on.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That wouldn't surprise me there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then after that, I would say several years ago, it was Memphis and Ja Morant. Nobody other than Steph, Kevin, got more of a crowd pregame, going through his pregame workout and that different thing. And that's the true test, I think, for me. And Steph tonight, I mean, he'll see hundreds of fans there out an hour before the game when doors open, just to see him dribble and shoot corner threes and throw the ball like a football and just little things like that. It is entertainment before the true entertainment. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind here in the last half dozen years that this is the biggest draw annually.
Scott Agnes with us, Fieldhouse Files on the Fan on the Payless Liquors hotline on this Thursday. Last one for me. Right now the Cleveland Cavaliers they're on pace to win 73 games this year, Scott. And so I don't want to ask you, are they for real? They're obviously for real. Do you think they're for real enough? And the Pacers play them coming up on Sunday and then Tuesday. Are they real enough where you think they can go to the NBA Finals, or we get into the playoffs? Or are you still thinking, a team like Boston obviously will beat them? I don't know how much you've seen of Cleveland, but obviously they're coming into town here on Tuesday, and the Pacers are there in Cleveland on Sunday.
Yeah, it's one of those home and homes basically, and not a back-to-back nights, but in terms of back-to-back games. But yeah, no, I think they're right up there. I think there's a very realistic shot of them continuing to advance. I mean, as you said, Andy, what they are doing is just remarkable. It's just incredible. And so that's why last night I think was so important for them being the top team in the East, at least record-wise right now, to be showcased and to do so against the top team in the Western Conference. And to make it all better, that fans here in our market would appreciate, it was two smaller markets going at it,
sure,
with Oklahoma City and Cleveland. And so I think fans can also relate a little bit with this, as well as Cleveland season's having. They're still getting zero attention. Like, how many cover stories are you getting, or how many national features are you reading, or it's not like inside the NBA crew are going there or anything like that. So it's something you constantly have to earn, versus if you're the Lakers, if J.J. Redick says something, it's going to be on the national TV program, like, regardless. Or LeBron, same thing. But, yeah, I think they definitely are for real. They figured a lot out, having a lot of success there with Kenny Atkinson. I still believe Boston's the favorite. But Cleveland has figured this out. And what's most interesting to me about it all is you kind of have the two double big system there with Evan Mobley, with Jared Allen, plus with several other key guys. And Donovan Mitchell, a player so many of us thought was going to leave or force his way out. What was it, 2 summers ago or last summer? And they just made it work with this new coaching staff.
Scott, we're up against it, but JR asks, when are Pacer games moving to Amazon Prime? That's an add-on subscription, correct?
Yes, that would be an add-on. There's no official date from that. I was told I think it was a month ago, that expect that in Q1 of this year, I guess it would now be. So I know that's no specific time, but I would think here in the next month or so, you can do that. And yes, it would probably be the same cost as FanDuel Sports Network TV, just probably a different or more reliable option.
Tomorrow night, Pacers Warriors. Again, Indiana's won 4 in a row, all by double digits. Scott, thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Scott Agnes, Payless Liquors hotline right there. Just a reminder, Steph Curry, 4 back-to-backs this year. Andy, he's only played in both of them once. Now, he has sat the first night of a couple of these back-to-backs. They're in Detroit tonight, first game of an Eastern trip here. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Of course, last year, he had 42 inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. He hit 11.
He was worth the money.
Threes. He hit 6 in the first quarter. I
remember.
I don't know if I've ever heard the building like that in a first quarter.
Well, you made fun of the Carmel Pups. They brought it strong.
Loud. They were loud. Daniel Moores of the world. They were loud.
You better believe it. All right, coming up on the other side, a little bit basketball conversation, but I looked at 2 mock drafts. Can I give you 2 Colts names on the other side?
Ooh, mock drafts.
Oh, come on. You know I see one of those.
I need more Rudy soundtrack.
I'm clicking on one of those. Also, Mark has admitted he hasn't seen another somewhat infamous move. He did so on Twitter while we were having the interview with Agnes. So we'll dive into that. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We got you to 10 o'clock on the Fan on a Thursday.
Yeah, I think early next week would be a good time to have a draft person on. Colts have the 14th overall pick coming up in this year's draft. Probably good to start to get a little bit of an early look at that. Andy, someone sent me yesterday, hey, I've got the perfect Colts mock draft for you.
See, I love it. Come on, deep down, you know you love it.
So I'm like, well, you got to click on it. I mean,
of course
literally,
you
it's
do.
like, watch Tiger Woods walk without a limp. I'm like, yeah, I'm clicking on that link. Hell yeah.
Right.
Ironically, the first 3 picks in this mock draft, all 3 of them are on the football field tonight that this guy sent me.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think this game tonight, Penn State, Notre Dame, has some Colts draft nerd
okay.
softcore action in it, if I could go there.
Okay. Well, do you have a name or two for us? Or
Well, I think the most obvious name is probably
Tyler Warren, yeah.
is Tyler Warren from Penn State. And
yeah.
they move him all over the field. Just watch the Boise State game. I mean, the contested catches he makes.
He's good.
It's quite impressive. And again, a very unheralded recruit. I think it was more of like kind of an athlete. Sometimes you see that. Is he a D end? Is he a tight end? Sort of thing. And he has flourished, and he will be a huge priority for Notre Dame tonight. Ironically, the second-round pick that this mock draft had the guy that I think will have a big say in how much Tyler Warren does tonight. That'll be Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame. He is a great football player. Great football player. Now, some people might be like, Kevin, how elementary of a comment is that? You keep on calling him a great football player. I don't think he'll be a great tester.
Interesting. So,
now,
yeah, and that matters.
And look,
to some people it matters. Let me put it that way.
It matters to the man
Yeah.
that's holding those picks
It
over there
does.
on West 56th Street.
It
That's why I
does.
bring it up. And then the third one is Nick Singleton. And you'll watch Penn State tonight. Singleton and Kaytron Allen, they're running backs. They are a great duo. That is another huge priority for Notre Dame. So it is kind of funny that, I don't know if it's Midwest, Big Ten bias, but Tyler Warren, Xavier Watts, Nick Singleton is who this mock drafter threw at me.
Okay.
You are a huge nerd.
Hey, listen, no way. No, shame on you, Mark.
Mark,
shame
come on now.
you.
You click on all of them, too.
That is sports drugs. Are you kidding me? We love
Mark
a mock
acts like,
draft.
oh, here
Stop
I am,
it.
a Bears fan. I
He's-
don't click on mock drafts. What else
trust
do
me.
you click on as
Trust
a Bears
me, I was
fan?
clicking on all the links that said they're interviewing the Ohio or Iowa State coach. I'm like,
Matt
what the
Campbell.
hell?
You don't like anyone that they're going to hire.
Well, I think you can cast a wide net, and then there's some where you're like, wasting
I tell you
airfare
who-
on this?
I tell you who I just don't care about is Cliff Kingsbury.
No, thank you.
I just don't care.
He hasn't won anywhere he's been as a head coach.
Under 500
What about
everywhere
Mrs.
he's been.
Kingsbury?
Well, she's not coaching.
Does he have a? I'm asking. Does he have a missus?
I believe so.
Well, when he got fired from Arizona, two things on Kingsbury. Do you remember when he was sitting back in his awesome living room for the draft like 4 years
it was
ago
glorious.
in Arizona? It's like there's a guy that actually lives like this. I remember thinking. The other thing
Looked like Scarface's dream house.
Boy, these pictures are not safe for work of Cliff Kingsbury's significant other.
Okay, so does he have a wife or a girlfriend?
Well, I part of me wants to answer. I don't really care. Let's just say good for him.
Well, now I'm punching that
no,
in.
Focus for a minute
Okay.
here. Let's not derail the combo here.
Is it the Veronica Bielik young lady?
Names
because
and
there was a time
pronunciation of names.
when
are
he
kinda,
got
who cares?
when Cliff Kingsbury got fired in Arizona. The story was he left like the next day and went with this Veronica lady model. I don't know what exactly her job, Instagram model. And
she might be a second grade teacher here at Brownsburg Elementary for all we know.
He had a one-way ticket, and it was to some exotic location. Like, he didn't buy a ticket, and he's not like, I'll be back in 6 days. I'll be back in 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a one-way ticket. I followed her for a little while on Instagram. That's why when you
there
mentioned
you go.
Veronica, I thought,
That
okay,
explains the algorithm.
Yeah, I go, well, you know what? That name and that looks familiar. Anyway. There was one other Cliff Kingsbury thing, but it doesn't matter. My wife thinks he's very attractive, but he's looking old. He's looking a little old. The last couple years, losing football has got to Cliff
Lord,
Kingsbury.
Who are we to be telling Cliff Kingsbury
Well,
he's looking old? Can we get back to the mock drafts?
So the two people, Tyler Warren is on the ESPN.com one, and then at CBS, Chris Trapasso, who we need to try to have on at some point, he had one, and he brought up a name that, again, we are months away, and who ultimately knows what is going to happen? And with Chris Ballard, who the hell knows what's going to happen? Luther Burden, the wide receiver at Missouri. Is that a player?
He was a very highly ranked recruit, I remember.
He might be the highest ranked recruit that ever went to Missouri. 2 years ago, he had a huge year. 2 years ago, in 2023, he had over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 86 catches, which, again, in college football, and you're not in Alabama. You have sketchy quarterback play. It's mid-level SEC. And then this past year, not as good of a year. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if he played less games, just had 676 yards. He is a first-round pick. He is a good player. I don't think they'll go wide receiver. He's a shorter player. He's 5'11", so I don't know if he's more you think of, well, we already have a shorter player in Josh Downs. Do we need someone bigger? I don't know. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, it's kind of silly season for us the next couple months because the Colts aren't in the playoffs. So Tyler Warren, Luther Burden, 2 names offensively to kind of watch for in college football over the next couple weeks and months.
And obviously tomorrow night, I mean, it's a slew of NFL draft prospects. It's kind of funny when you look at the game tonight and the game tomorrow. Abdul Carter tonight, Penn State's defensive end. By all accounts, people look at him as kind of a top 5 pick. When Sean McDonough was on with us earlier, he is a bit iffy for this one. And then Jeremiah Love, who actually has another year of eligibility, Notre Dame's explosive running back. How effective can he be tonight? And then when you talk about more eligibility, Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State tomorrow has got 2 years. Do you think Texas got any chance tomorrow? I know we've talked a lot of Notre Dame, Penn State. But
I think they do have a chance. I'm just taking – listen, I'm taking Ohio State to win, like something like 31-21, 34-27, something like that. I think Ohio State will win. I told you, we can do it later. I'm picking Notre Dame to win tonight. As like James Franklin was kind of like looking down at Marcus Freeman a little bit yesterday. Like he's Papa Bear.
I wanted to absolutely kick him in the what.
Yeah, so now I'm like totally – I'm rooting, I guess, for the evil empire. I'm rooting for Notre Dame tonight. Come on, cover the 1.5. I'm going to lay a bet down. Let's get this baby finished.
Smug, childish. It was despicable to watch.
He is very arrogant. He really is James Franklin.
Now, this quarterback, Drew Aller, I feel like.
What's he doing staying at college?
Well,
go to the NFL. Come on, the Giants will take
good?
Is he good is a great question. If we have a draft guy on next week, it's a question I have, even though he might not be in this year's draft.
He'd be the number 1 pick in 2026.
I know. You watch him, he might have 200 yards.
But then I feel like I've watched him, I'm like, is he Will Levis?
He's got a big arm, which makes me worried about it.
I highly regret that statement in 12 hours, but...
How much better is he than Christian Hackenberg? Remember that name?
Oh, boy, what a name. Was
Remember
he a Jet quarterback?
He was. I think he was the second rounder, too.
Riley Leonard has still yet to throw a consequential fourth-quarter pass in 120 minutes of playoff football.
It's unbelievable.
2 games, and the right arm has not been needed in the fourth quarter.
He's not going to be able to have 92 yards passing tonight.
No.
He's going to have to do something else. So we'll get into the breakdown of that game. Andrew Chernoff is in there. He's down there in Miami. We'll get to him at 9:30 on the other end. One of the more absurd stories reared its ugly head yesterday. We'll dive into that next 9 o'clock hour coming up around the corner.
What the hell is this, Mark?
Just trying to be fair and balanced, Kevin. Figure we played a couple Rudy tracks. We should probably, for those in the audience that are Penn State fans.
Oh, yeah, boy. Yeah.
Got to play Fight on State.
Matt Conti and Ryan Stevens and just the diehards out there. What? It's the most nondescript fight song ever.
I know.
What
it's
is
pretty
that? You
generic.
told me that's Jeffersonville or
I gotta be
Indy.
It's Clarksville, Indiana. Yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't know that was their fight song. That's fine. Yeah.
It's as generic as James Franklin.
I don't know if James Franklin's generic. He's kind of an a-hole.
He's a generic a-hole.
Well, that's fair. Are you guys betting on an exact Super Bowl matchup? You get some enticing odds here.
No. Like, what would, I guess the main one would be what? Eagles Chiefs or Eagles Bills? Probably.
You could get some good money if you want one of those two matchups.
Why do
no.
Do people not believe in? I mean, they're the favorites. The Eagles are the 2 seed.
Lions Chiefs is your exact Super Bowl matchup favorite. I think the extra game's a big deal. And the fact that the Lions obviously don't have to play it.
The Lions will get David Montgomery back. They earn the right to get the 1 seed in the bye, and it's going to help them. They're going to get David Montgomery back.
It does sound like Jalen Hurts is trending in a good direction. He practiced yesterday. But, yeah, right now, plus 425 is Lions-Chiefs. Then in order from there, it goes Lions-Ravens, Lions-Bills, and then Eagles-Chiefs. So if you look at it in Vegas, they're more skeptical of the AFC than they are of the NFC in regards to the 1 seeds.
Interesting. Who do you buy? Who do you believe is going to fall on their face in the postseason?
I really hope it's not the Bills. I've got a soft spot for their fan base. I like Josh Allen. I don't pretend to know a ton about him, but I don't know. I just get Manning 04, 05 vibes from that operation.
You said that yesterday, and I was going to kind of hold this to maybe next week or maybe even tomorrow, but do you get that more with him, or do you get it with Lamar Jackson? I know it's a very corny national sports radio thing, but who has more pressure? I mean, Josh Allen could win the MVP, and at some point, you're right, he's going to have to slay the dragon and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The flip side of it is Lamar Jackson is the best regular season quarterback in the NFL for many years.
More Bills because the Chiefs have been the direct outster of them. Last year, obviously Kansas City to Baltimore, and boy, I think back on that game actually a decent amount. The Zay Flowers fumble, remember going in the end zone?
Oh, yeah.
And how big that play was.
And by the way, Zay Flowers might not be playing. In fact, I don't think he's going to play on Sunday. I still think the Ravens are going to wipe the Steelers
If you could only watch one game this weekend.
Oh,
Where
goodness.
Are you going? I guess
Packers-Eagles probably.
Now I'm going to our early popcorn game.
Here we go.
I apologize for that.
Probably Packers-Eagles. The Steelers-Ravens, no. Chargers-Texans is not a sexy game. Commanders-Bucks, I think that's actually going to be a really good game.
I think that's mine right there.
Yeah, but I'm still going to go Packers-Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how he plays.
Would you consider the Vikings falling on their face as a big one? Because they're the 5th seed, but they're also a 14-win team. But I think
Minnesota is going to lose. In fact, I kind of want this spread to go up to maybe 2.5, and kind of bet the Rams on the back end. Now, if they move the game, I don't know how that's going to change my opinion of the game, simply because I don't think the Rams have many fans. I think the Vikings will bring a healthy amount of fans to LA, but I don't know where that game is going to be. I would say that would be mine. If you said who's going to fall on their face, I would say I will not believe in Sam Darnold, even though I like Kevin O'Connell a great deal. That would be the one that I would point to.
Imagine being a Vikings fan trying to plan this travel right now with the wildfires in California and then the game possibly moving to Arizona.
Yeah, that's a contingency plan the NFL announced. They would move that game to Glendale Cardinals Stadium. I did see someone joke yesterday this might be the only chance the Colts have to host a home playoff game as they can somehow get into the contingency plans. I thought, you know what? Come on now.
Yeah. While it may be true, it's a read the room, but it also might be true. That could be the case.
Roof open or roof closed, guys.
That's a great boy. It'd be 8 degrees outside.
All right. Enough. Brian tweets here, if Notre Dame wins tonight, can we get the Notre Dame marching band outside of James Franklin's press conference? Very good.
Great.
Very good from Brian.
Who's the leader? Who's the man or woman who is the leader of the band?
Dr. Ken Dye. He was a legend.
Sure he was.
Boy, that is the fact that I remember the marching band director is probably one of the sicker things I've ever said.
You are ill. I can't believe you have a name. I don't know if
Dr. Ken Dye. Google him right now.
Okay.
Mark Glasses.
All right?
Yeah, Dr.
Like,
Dye.
I
Ken
believe you.
Dye.
You could come up with
Kenneth,
any name.
maybe? Yeah, Dr.
Oh, if
Dye.
you just put in Ken Dye, it's gonna come up. We need to find out who's leading it now.
glasses, nice man.
So he's gone now?
Yeah,
Has he
I
passed?
believe he's
Okay,
gone. Yeah,
okay.
I'd slap him on the back as they
Yeah,
win.
Kenneth Dye, you are a nerd.
Boy, that's
I play that sound way too often.
That's
this
being
morning.
pretty deep into
I
the
know.
weeds there.
Yeah, that comes out of my mouth. I'm like, how the hell did I ever get married?
It's a great question. It actually is a very good question. It's too bad he didn't do any of the music at your wedding, maybe. Honey, we'll have to pay him a little bit, but
Says he
We
having
should have had some more
renowned.
Jerry Goldsmith at our wedding.
Yeah,
I'm surprised
Jerry
you didn't request
Goldsmith.
any Kenneth Dye pieces
From
this
the Rudy
morning.
soundtrack.
Did you guys happen to see, and I teased it, just one of the more absurd and kind of funny stories, and I don't know really what to do with it. So yesterday, Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network reported that multiple teams have reached out to Bill Belichick, including the Raiders, who, of course, now are owned, or not owned, well, they're kind of owned. I mean, they're basically being ran by Tom Brady. So I think Tom Brady's going to be done broadcasting here pretty soon. The NFL's like, yo, bro, you're going to have to pick one or the other. That's I think in the next year or so, if not even by next season. So that story came out, I don't know, KB, maybe lunchtime-ish. It was after we went off the air, that Bill Belichick has been called by multiple NFL teams, including the Raiders and Tom Brady. And then, so that story sat out there, and everyone did the conversation piece on how, up until what, I believe it's July 1st, June or July 1st, there's a $10 million buyout in North Carolina, and then basically it goes away. So
it goes to $1 million, right?
So if you wanted to get Bill Belichick, you're going to have to wait to midsummer, and then after that, you could bring him in to be your head coach in the NFL.
Can you imagine that? You have no offseason program.
It's just...
Like, would you hire like a bunch of assistants
Well, I mean, and then
to run it, and then just like awkwardly say, "Yeah, Bill, we'll get you June 2nd."
And then, of course, North Carolina. What the hell would they do? And no one cares about North Carolina football, but
they go get Tommy Rees.
They were trying to get the guy from maybe IMG, who one of the leaders of these prep schools. Anyway, so that came out, and then. So it sat out there for 4, 5, 6 hours, and then right after that, 5 hours later, it was. Well, no one really, Bill's really committed this year to North Carolina, and he's not going to go back to the NFL. And really, Brady just hit him up, because Brady wanted to pick his brain on a few things as they get ready to hire a new coach there in Vegas. And I got to be honest, I actually don't believe that. What Tom Pelissero was kind of trying to put out there, I actually buy that. And if you're an NFL team, you've had all of these months to reach out to Bill Belichick. Why would that now be a story?
Well,
I mean, you've had a year and a half, 2 years to reach out to Bill Belichick. If you're the Chicago Bears, you've had months to reach out to Bill Belichick. Why do it now that he's a taken man in North Carolina?
And what about last year's cycle?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You've had all this time.
Eight openings, and what, Atlanta was the only one that...
You know what the theory is coming out? I think Chris Canty mentioned this on ESPN Radio this morning. The theory is that there's all these job openings, and maybe some of these candidates... A bunch of these teams that fired their coach are sitting back saying, "Yeah, I'm not in love with any of these guys."
Well, John asked this yesterday. John's a big sports fan, and he said to me, he goes, "Do you feel like with how much coordinators make, there's just a level of contentment there of not being in the big chair?" And like, why would you, if you are Cliff Kingsbury with Jaden Daniels, if you are Ben Johnson with that Lions core, last year I think we saw it with Bobby Slowick in Houston with C.J. Stroud,
right?
Why would you just leave at a drop of a hat? And, I think collegiately, like Al Golden with Notre Dame is a very kind of hot name of like, hey, could he get an NFL coordinator job, or could he become a college head coach again and get a crack at it? And, I mean, if you're making $2 to $3 million and you don't have to answer to really any of the NIL BS.
No.
Or
no.
You
don't do any. You do 10 interviews
and an NFL coordinator.
Season.
You do Gus Bradley's got 10 minutes on Zoom every Tuesday.
That's it.
So
yeah.
I just feel like with how much these coordinators make, and if you've got kind of in an offensive sense, if you have the right quarterback, or offensive defensive sense, if you got the right core, why not just kind of milk that for a couple years? I don't know.
But
I feel like that's a question.
Think about this: if you have 7, 8 job openings, I think Aaron Glenn is well respected. I think Ben
like
Johnson,
Vrabel in New England, right?
Yeah,
isn't there kind of some smoke
but
there?
after you get by the top 3 or 4, if you fire your coach and say, "Hey, we're gonna start everything," we're gonna get the fan base, jacked up and ready to go, and you give me Cliff Kingsbury, who's under 500, like that's just not gonna cut it. I don't know. It's interesting, but the Bill Belichick story I thought was a little absurd yesterday, but the contract was written. So, and this is on North Carolina because they're beggars. They're not choosers. They're beggars. That that they would give so much. They would give in so much to have Bill Belichick.
I would love him to go back to the NFL.
I would too. That they would put themselves in the position that come summer he could leave. It's only $1 million back to their fund, and they would be left having to try to get a coach. Just imagine that.
Mark, who do you want for the Bears? Besides Ben Johnson.
I would be happy with Mike Vrabel, which they've apparently completed an interview with. After that, you'd really have to twist my arm to convince me that some of these other guys that they have apparently reached out to are guys that you're going to, trust to develop Caleb Williams for multiple years. That's why the Pete Carroll stuff, I like Pete Carroll, 73 years old, though. He's not going to be in it for the long haul with Caleb Williams. There's Joe Brady out there. I saw Todd Monken from the Ravens. Those are fine names, but a couple of these are, we're at like 20 people they're interviewing. Seems a bit much. But you can convince Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, either of those, I will be a happy man.
Let me ask you this. If the Colts were looking for a coach, who would we want? And I would say maybe toss Vrabel out because I do think Vrabel is going to go back. Why would he not go back to New England?
Yeah.
Like, why would he's not going to go take the Jets job? I mean, Drake May is a very good rookie quarterback. So you say, well, you go to the Bears. Yeah, but I got a quarterback in New England. I don't have as much talent. But New England has, what is it going to be, $130 million of money? I mean, they're going to be able to go out and probably get 4 or 5 big-time free agents this offseason.
I'm curious about Aaron Glenn with the Lions. Too. He interviewed here a couple of years ago. I don't want to stereotype too much, Andy, but I guess I will. I'm afraid that the big-time offensive dudes are just too nerdy. And I'm stereotyping, like hand is raised.
I understand.
I just largely think, when it's time to lead, can you speak to all 53 and not just the beautiful X and O on a whiteboard on a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Are you lumping Shane Steichen in that group?
Well, they're trying to almost break away from that trend of the last 3 or 4 years.
I guess I'll say this to Mark's question because I think Mark's question is a very fair one. I think the overall question of Shane Steichen as a leader is a fair one.
Yep. It is.
Now, again, I've seen Shane Steichen a little bit more behind the scenes, and obviously I think a lot of fans see just in podium sessions. There's more to Shane Steichen than the robot we see in front of a mic.
Sure there is.
There is definitely more, but still, I think about Shane and everything that's on his plate. He has the biggest quarterback project the NFL has seen with a first-round pick ever. He's calling the plays, and he's the head football coach.
First-time head football coach.
First-time head football. That's a very good point.
In an organization that is, it's in a spot.
So, those 3 boxes are massive. Massive. So that's why, I said to you earlier in the week, and I know we'll probably get into a bigger Anthony Richardson topic here upcoming, but, to me, it's just so paramount that you find some voices around Anthony Richardson that are not you, his OC and his quarterback's coach, that send strong, specific, needed messages that Anthony Richardson hears. And through 2 seasons has that happened? I think that is a hard question you need to ask yourself if you're Shane Steichen sitting there in West 56th Street.
Last thing on this, do you guys care at all about the conversation around John Gruden this offseason? He's been out 4 or 5 years. Of course, for people that don't remember, go Google it. Back in the Daniel Snyder stuff, all the Daniel Snyder stuff in the discovery part of all these different lawsuits and Snyder losing his team and having to sell his team and getting the billions of dollars to do so. Those emails came out where John Gruden said some things in emails you don't say. And you don't say in emails. You don't say it on the radio. You don't say it in your private life. And he said a lot of things. He said a lot of things towards Roger Goodell that we cannot say on the radio. It feels like there's been a little bit of a revitalization, right? Reclamation project is probably the better term.
Mm-hmm.
He's been to Barstool Sports. He now works for them. I think he's a great he's a great personality. The stuff that he's actually doing on Barstool is actually pretty neat.
He's quite the NFL head coach. I know. It just sounds funny to be like, to revive my image, I'm going to join Barstool Sports.
Well, he's doing something media-wise, I guess, is
I know
the
what
best
you're saying.
way,
It just
the
sounds
best
funny.
way to say it. I hadn't really thought of it. I guess I don't really care that much,
But
but
has his name really been has he interviewed? I haven't seen him interview anywhere.
I've heard his name floated, but no actual reports that any team's interviewing him.
It's one of those things that's becoming a story because people are saying, why not John Gruden? Because they're looking around into these unproven offensive guys like you mentioned.
Right.
Or, we're bringing up Pete Carroll. Mark is right. You don't hire Pete Carroll. He's in his mid-70s.
Yeah.
I think the world of Pete Carroll.
You pick his brain.
He's a Hall of Fame guy, coach. But to me, it's silly. Rex Ryan is being brought up to go back to the Jets. Can the Jets not do anything without going to Rex Ryan? So that's why Gruden, this is a guy who signed a $100 million contract at one point.
Well, what's more likely, that some team hires John Gruden with his history, or someone hires Brian Flores who sued the league? Because I feel like that's a story that's kind of getting swept under the rug, too.
That's still going on, by the way.
You had the Ryan Fitzpatrick comments yesterday about Flores that I thought were pretty damn.
What did he say? I didn't
basically said he became a dictator in Miami, alienated himself from so many staff members.
That's interesting.
The general thought of have you grown or matured is such a fast. I don't have the energy to have this conversation right now, but we might need to have it at some point. If Ryan Grigson gets a GM job, again, the growth and maturation. We're talking in Flores' case, it's been 4 years since he was head coach?
So, at least 3. So
Grigson, it's been 8 years. The general thought of, and I say this for mankind or human beings in general, can you grow and mature?
Right.
People do. In all walks of life.
I'm totally with you.
So,
did you read the piece on Grigson?
No, but my brother said I should read it.
Yeah, you should read it.
I think Silver, if I can say it, he's been known to slurp that one up.
Oh.
I like that. We waited here. He looked at me and he smiled.
Sometimes just when you get in the media industry and you got to check who is doing the story. So
I would agree.
But my brother, who I consider a very good, accurate human being of, whatever, he did say that it was a good read. So I will read that.
You and your brother are not watching the game together tonight, right?
We're not. He's got Annie Jane, who's about 2 or 3 weeks old.
I know.
And
so he's busy.
But he and I will be in Atlanta if needed.
Yeah, the story on The Athletic is Ryan Grigson and Brian Flores, the bromance between them, both of them with obviously the Minnesota Vikings, how they didn't know each other and how how basically they're almost like the same person. I could see if Ryan ever got another job being a GM, that who he would bring along to probably be his head coach would be Brian Flores.
Can I, if you don't mind, can you guys therapy with me here for just a sec?
Yeah, let's go.
I worry about the emotional mat for Notre Dame. Was the Georgia win as celebrated internally as, guys, I had my shirt off.
Yeah.
For a quarterfinal win.
I know. It was beating the SEC. It was beating Kirby Smart.
It's the biggest win in 30 years. They had 2 less days than Penn State. Bless you. Now, this is where Marcus Freeman earns the big bucks. He has gotten this. He got him off the emotional mat after Northern Illinois, and obviously he's gotten them, to meet whatever they needed to meet against Indiana and clearly Georgia. So, as much as I talk about the physical, and again, I put this into Colts terms. Right now they're without the equivalents of Bernard Ryman, Ryan Kelly, DeForest Buckner. Jalen. If Jalen Jones was an All-American, Jalen Jones. Their Jonathan Taylor is banged up. They are banged up, but that emotional toll. Was Georgia celebrated so much? Freeman has said all the right things.
I know.
He said his captains came. Notre Dame's not. They don't start school for another week, so it's you aren't dealing with that. Students on campus aren't necessarily over your shoulder every 2 seconds like they would be normally. But I am curious about that aspect. Penn State, I think some of the chatter still is they've had an easy draw.
Oh, yeah, they beat SMU. Who cares?
So I think Penn State feels a little bit of the prove it. Penn State feels how Notre Dame walked into Georgia.
Right.
I almost feel. And I'm curious how that will play out. It'll be hard to kind of see it.
Oh, no, which one's this?
This is the final game.
The final game.
Mark, I really want tryouts if you could go with that.
Yes, sir.
See,
right
the
away,
thing about
sir.
the final game, and for those that haven't been with us
next segment
this morning, this is the Rudy soundtrack, Jerry Goldsmith. It's one of the most please don't listen to it until 10:01, but it's one of the most soothing CDs out there. And I'm sure you can find this on Spotify.
You lost people by saying CDs.
I had it. I listened to it rather daily on my trips to school. 6, 8, and 10 on the track.
I kept my CD
This
booklets.
is tryouts, right?
Yeah. Per your request again.
I kept my CD booklets when we moved from Southern Indiana to here. I kept them. I was like, I'm keeping them. Why not? They're not worth anything.
I gotta have mine somewhere.
Oh, yeah. You have to.
This is beautiful. I played this last night for the children.
Right before bed.
Rudy was in. Rudy, oh my gosh, I called Rosie Rudy.
You've got a problem, sir.
I did have a dog growing up named Rudy. I don't know if I've shared that with you guys.
That's
female dog.
That's the least surprising thing you've ever said.
R-U-D-I, not R-U-D-Y, R-U-D-I.
That's nice.
For Ken Dye, thank you, Mark Dykton, the band director at Notre Dame, who we referenced earlier. There's a couple crescendos. You're about to hear one of them here.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
This is beautiful. This is
getting tears in your eyes.
This is uplifting
What's
movie
our
stuff.
guy's name at the ISO Symphony here in town? What's his name?
I don't know. You're the musician nerd all of a sudden.
I do not know.
I can picture him.
Oh, that's good stuff. I like a good symphony.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
What is that guy's name? I'm going to have to look that
Mark,
up.
did you ever listen to Metallica when they played with the San
of
Francisco
course.
Symphony? Have you ever heard that album?
Of course.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
God, I can't believe I'm looking up the
I know.
Indianapolis Symphony.
I'm going to be throwing a
Orchestra
Tyrese
director.
Halliburton sound here in the next 60 seconds.
Unbelievable.
You
Go
wanna-
ahead.
You want to do that?
We've
Get rid
got
of
Boots on the
tryouts
Ground
now.
in Miami coming up in
Yeah,
5.
I talked to Sherndog yesterday.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, Andrew Chernoff. I have to ask him who he thinks will win the Indy 500.
Oh, that is a man that loves racing.
Yeah, he might be ready. He might be more ready for that. He's a Notre Dame fan, but he's a fan of like 19 other schools as well. He's a Syracuse guy. You know, he's in journalism, so of course he had to go to Syracuse or Missouri, whatever. So, all right, let's get into it. Morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
Jack Everly, that's his name. That's the ISO guy.
Oh, is it? Write
Beautiful.
that
He would
down.
love what we're doing right now with Jerry
I'm
Goldsmith.
sure he would. 129, 113. That's your final last night. And Gamebridge Pacers now 2 games over 500. 4 straight wins. Also 4 straight wins now in the new year. The story, Thomas Bryant getting the start for an ill Miles Turner. 22 points, 8 rebounds for Thomas Bryant. 26 points for Pascal Siakam. Halliburton, another pretty good game. 16 and 13 for him. Next up for the Pacers, tomorrow night, hosting the Warriors, 6:30 hour coverage right here on the Fan.
You know it's a good night for the Pacers when I thought the 2 highlights was PA man Sean Sullivan saying wedgie
That's great. Yeah.
at a bull shot that got stuck in the side of the backboard or side of the rim, and when the Pacers tweeted out a picture of the smallest numerical lineup in the history of the league. 00 Matherin, 0 Halliburton, 1 Toppin, 2 Nemhard,
That's great.
and 3 Bryant.
It really is great. And so they know that is for sure a record.
You can't be triple zero, right?
No, I don't think you can.
Can you be
Good for the
decimal points?
Good for the Pacers. Should we ask, if they're winning, we need to ask Rick Carlisle that and see if anyone told him that maybe next Tuesday. Again, if they're winning, not if they lose by 35 the night before.
Let you toss that one to Rick Carlisle.
Wait to the end. Yeah, we'll wait to the end.
Last night in Bloomington, outstanding for the Hoosiers in the second half. Again, another big offensive night with one big on the floor. Something to continue to explore. Umar Ballo, 23. Miles Rice, 19, 9, and 6. That's a Braden Smith type stat line for Miles Rice. Luke Goody in the starting lineup for Renew. He had 16, 4 of 5 from 3 for the Fort Wayne product there. So, again, offensively, they have not had a stretch like this in the Big Ten in quite a while. At Iowa coming up on Saturday. Butler, they get steamrolled out at Providence. That is 8 in a row. A big-time look in the mirror moment for Thad Matta here in year 3. Great recruiting class coming in next year. No one thought they would have this type of season.
What are they, 0-5 in the Big East? I think it is. They're winless.
And Providence isn't very good. So last night was one that they could have gotten.
They're pretty ordinary. Purdue back in action tonight. Fox Sports 1. They're on the road in Rutgers at 6 o'clock. Notre Dame, Penn State. You can hear it right here. 6:30 hour coverage tonight on the Fan. All right, boots on the ground there, Miami. Andrew Chernoff. He joins us next here on the Fan on this Thursday.
All right, we got boots on the ground down in Miami, one of our favorites. Andy Sweeney worked with this man down in the Louisville area. I've known this man since he was just hitting three-pointer after three-pointer after three-pointer back in the day growing up.
Oh, was he? See, I've never seen him ball like that.
What
Okay.
our team name was. One of the wetter jump shots you'll see in the 317. Andrew Chernoff from Wish TV. Live from Miami, Orange Bowl, Notre Dame, Penn State on the Payless Liquors hotline. Andrew, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great. First of all, my form is atrocious, so I take even offense to saying it's weird. It's just horrible. Also, my threes, they win in all the time. But of course, that's when I was playing like NBA 2K or whatever.
No. You're not fooling me. The form might have been a bit unusual, but the ball found the basket a whole lot. Andrew, set the scene for us. Crowd split. What's it looking like? What I am very confused. Uncertain would be probably the better word to use on what exactly it'll be like. Penn State obviously had to travel out to Phoenix if they would like. They came here for the Big Ten tournament, or the Big Ten championship, I should say. Notre Dame was down in New Orleans. What's your vibe on the crowd action for tonight?
I'm still trying to figure out what the percentage is, whether it's going to be 60, 40, 70, 30. I think it's going to be pretty evenly split, though. I've seen a ton of fans from each fan base down here. Where I'm located in my hotel, I've only seen Penn State fans. I'm just north near Fort Lauderdale. I've also been down closer to Hollywood, and there's a lot of Notre Dame fans. So I think it's going to be split. But it's crazy because even today I was out at the beach, doing live shots earlier, which, rough life, right? But even there, just seeing people run on the trail and stuff, I saw people wearing Notre Dame shorts, Notre Dame T-shirts. I mean, they're all coming out of the woodwork. So it's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. But I think both fan bases, quite frankly, are going to bring their A game tonight.
Chernoff, you made me sick with that photo of you out at the beach this morning. I don't mind saying it.
Mark, you got to retweet him. He's doing live hits on Wish.
Yeah,
and
I was scraping ice off my
Google
car.
imaged it.
Yeah, it was disgusting. So good for you. Did you think you were going to get to cover this game? Did you ask to cover to this game, or did they come to you and say, "Hey, Chernoff, get on a plane. You're going to Miami"?
I mean, it's sort of that. And they're like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And you guys know, like, I followed Notre Dame since I was growing up. So, like, this is a really cool assignment personally for me. And, it's just awesome to see just the fan base and everyone just get so excited for this. Obviously, you never take trips for these for granted. You're working hard, you're doing that stuff, but you're doing live shots on the beach. I mean, you're not enjoying the beach, but you're still at the beach. So there's definitely an excitement. And, it makes it even sweeter knowing when I was taking off and we were looking out of the window on the flight down and you see all that snow across central Indiana and you get down here and you see water, because that water would be frozen up in Indiana. So definitely really nice to be down here right now.
On the Payless Liquors hotline, Andrew Chernoff, Wish TV with us. He's down there for the game, obviously, tonight, Notre Dame and Penn State. Reminder, we'll have the radio call 6:30 coverage right here on The Fan. KB's been a little bit frustrated this morning, the last couple days, about some of the things that James Franklin has said, that Notre Dame needs to be in a conference, kind of looking down like Marcus Freeman.
Not even just the conference comment. I just think he's smug.
Well, he is smug. He's looking down like Freeman's the young pup. Did you get any of those feelings in the pit of your stomach watching those two do their interviews yesterday?
I don't know if I got that, but I do know Marcus Freeman is probably remembering all that and is going to use that as motivation. And Kevin knows this. Marcus is a guy who just is even-keeled, nonstop, and never says anything outrageous like James Franklin would say, per se, right? But just keeps it all to himself. And he says preparation, just 1 week at a time. I know it's coach speak, but he's very good at practicing that within the team. Marcus will never say anything like that, but James definitely, I think, was trying to sort of poke the bear a little bit and just sort of get him riled up. Marcus didn't take the bait, and it's going to be interesting now what happens tonight, because if Notre Dame does come out and win, you're going to wonder, was that even a little bit of motivation? And in these bowl games, don't give your opponent any more motivation than they need. Obviously, it makes headlines. James Franklin is also trying to promote his program. I wouldn't read too much into it being a personal thing back and forth, but just two different styles, I guess, when it comes to coaching and putting that program out there.
We started today off with Sean McDonough. He's on the call tonight on ESPN of this one, Notre Dame and Penn State in the Orange Bowl, and now we're kind of rounding out the show with Andrew Chernoff from Wish TV live in Miami as we get semifinal number 1 tonight, and tomorrow the Cotton Bowl in Dallas with Ohio State and Texas. Andrew, you were in Detroit, correct, for Purdue's Sweet 16 Elite 8. Did you go to Arizona too, or were you just there?
Oh, I did the double duty. I don't think I was at home at all the entire month of March. I mean, that was a fun little trip.
So you followed Purdue throughout. I've kind of made this analogy, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. I view tonight like Purdue-NC State. I felt like in the big picture of Purdue's basketball program, Notre Dame's football program, if you'd asked fans at the start of the year what needs to happen, Purdue fans would have said, you got to get to the Final Four. And I think for Notre Dame fans at the start of the year, they would have said, win multiple playoff games and hopefully get kind of the monkey of the, not even the SEC, but it certainly helps that it was the SEC champ, but get the big bowl monkey off your back. So I almost look at Notre Dame over Georgia like the Elite 8 game of Purdue over Tennessee. And now this is kind of like the Final Four of like, it's further validation. It'll be a sour taste if you lose, but I still think the season overall is probably viewed as a success. Agree, disagree?
Agree, and that's actually an interesting analogy because I've not heard that one yet. But, yeah, I mean, you think about it, even just the fans getting excited for these games, Purdue fans wanted to beat Tennessee because you knew what was on the line, a trip to the Final Four. And Tennessee had a very good basketball team. NC State didn't necessarily have a great team, but they just got hot. But you almost entered that game if you're a Purdue fan, we should win this, and they did. Notre Dame, I feel like, you know, Penn State, I don't write off Penn State because I'll be frank with you guys. I thought Penn State was not good at the start of the year, but the last couple of weeks they've been extremely impressive. That Oregon game in particular was like, whoa, maybe they are better than we thought. But from a Notre Dame perspective, beating an SEC team was huge, and you cannot understate that because how many times have we seen that under the Brian Kelly era, just could not get it over the hump in a big game against an SEC team. That doesn't mean overlook Penn State. I feel like, you know, you don't want to go into that whole trouble-ish issue where you're like, okay, we can beat Georgia now. We can beat anyone. Still got to focus on Penn State. But definitely from a anticipation standpoint, yeah, that's an interesting analogy. And I actually, for the first time, Kev, I'll agree with you. That's a good one.
Oh, my God.
Well, I mean,
how about that?
You steal it.
He's
use
mad
it.
I didn't pass him the ball enough back in the day.
Steal it, okay? Use it for all the Notre Dame fans that are there in Miami. All right, last one. Andrew Chernoff, Wish TV with us, Payless Liquors Hotline. Who wins the 2025 Indianapolis 500?
Ooh.
Oh, can I look at Carb Day practice before we get there? I do think though they're going to have a lot of good teams. Obviously, Joseph is going to be a huge threat. Will's going to be in there. The Ganassi guys, Dixon. I mean, I think Ed Carpenter Racing's going to be a sleeper this year.
Now that's Alexander Rossi over with Ed, right?
Yeah, Alexander Rossi's over with Ed, and then I mean it's just so deep. AJ Foyt's got Santino and Malukas. I mean, it's wide open, but you got to right now until you topple Joseph Newgarden, he's got to at least be the betting favorite heading into May. But I can't wait. Hashtag isn't May yet. It's not yet, but it feels like we're getting close.
Did you guys see the Doug Bowles video snowboarding yesterday around the Oval?
I did see that. Whenever I see people snowboard, I wonder how the hell do they do that?
Just outstanding.
Like how is their body able to snowboard?
I know. That is.
I'd pay $20 to do that. A lap around the track.
Oh, sure. It's a great deal.
I just paid $4 for you to watch Rudy. Andrew, have you ever seen the movie Rudy?
Who hasn't?
Andrew, just your general thoughts on Hoosiers as a movie, good, bad, just any sort of opinion.
I think they're both great, and let's just be frank about Rudy. The jersey scene every time. Get out the Kleenex. I mean, get out the tissues. It just tugs at the heartstrings, right?
Andrew, I'm nodding my head, very similar to how I nod my head at Joe Flacco's statements post-game earlier in the show. Our producer, Andrew, Mark Dykton, don't know how well you know Mark, but he has never seen the movie Rudy, and he thinks Hoosiers is awful.
That is, I wouldn't even say that's a hot take. That's just a bad take. He needs to go home immediately, watch it, and get back to you. I mean, that should be priority one. Skip lunch, watch the movie.
I'm going to watch Rudy.
You live in Indiana.
I am going to watch Rudy. Hoosiers, I felt like all the hype that built up for it over 2 decades before I watched it failed to meet the bar I had set.
It's been out even longer than 2 decades.
Oh, I know.
Right? So you've had even more time than that.
Uh-huh.
No, he's got no excuse whatsoever. Andrew, we're jealous.
Absolutely. Here's one other for you. You know, Angela Moran, one of my coworkers, she's never seen Happy Gilmore. I don't
Oh, my
know why
God.
What are we
people have
doing
not
here?
Seen all these sports movies.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my
people
God.
already hate our industry enough. I mean, come on.
It's bad. I think we all need to have like sports movie night or something.
Mhm.
Like
Oh,
10 hour straight
jeez.
movies. Get it out of the way.
Or just live, people. He is live from Miami. You can catch him on Wish TV. He'll have you updated all day today and certainly recapping it tomorrow. Andrew, I'm jealous of you, brother. Have a great, great time down there and safe travels back home.
Absolutely. And I'll hopefully bring some of this weather back that way.
No
'cause,
kidding.
Yeah.
You guys need it. I think our heating bills need it too.
Amen to that.
See you, brother. Appreciate it.
Andrew Chernoff right there from Wish TV.
What are we doing? Friday it's supposed to snow like 2 more inches?
2 to 4, a little bit later in the day tomorrow. Is that right?
Never ends.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, not that I go out on Friday nights, but I would say selfishly, like the Friday night into Saturday, maybe that's like a decent time for it to snow. You know, it's not going to.
Yeah, well, you're an old man.
Well,
you're an old
yeah,
man
I
now
know.
who just wants to sit and watch football and play with the kids.
I got swim practice Saturday, and that's about it, I think, on the old.
That's what I was about to say.
Or swim lessons on the old agenda here. I did see this in the YouTube chat. I guess Brady Quinn was talking about Riley Leonard as an NFL draft prospect. It was kind of wild. I was reading Dane Brugler's piece yesterday. He wrote a piece on these final 4 teams, and I forget what the exact phrase was, like the best prospect or maybe the most eligible prospect. Because, again, Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame is not eligible at running back. And he mentioned Leonard.
Yeah, I know.
Now, again, I read it, and it is size, dual threat ability, and then the intangibles, which, you know, again, when you throw in a quarterback, I do think that stuff matters. Now, I have seen very minimal Sunday throws from him this season, and when he's been asked to maybe produce some of those throws, they haven't gone well. So,
can I ask you a question on that? Will they blame Notre Dame's offense and personnel for some of that stuff? Because that happens. You know,
I mean,
a guy goes to the NFL. It's like, well, yeah, they didn't utilize him right. They
it's
didn't
the
have a
same
wide
offensive
receiver.
coordinator with Jaden Daniels, so I don't think I can play that card. But
Mike Denbrock, yeah.
Their wideouts, certainly, it's not a star-studded group. But
Sure.
still, I don't, I mean, again, my biggest skepticism I think you've felt for the last month or so, Andy, is can you make the right arm of Riley Leonard win a game? And so Indiana didn't sniff it.
Nope.
And Georgia really didn't sniff it.
They didn't.
So that's the question for Tom Allen tonight. I mean, that's Tom Allen's question. For Penn State, can you make Riley Leonard's right arm beat you?
I'm not picking on Tom Allen, but Tom Allen, you know, there's a piece, maybe The Athletic, where they're like, you know, difference a year makes, and now Tom Allen is, you know, enjoying life, being the defensive coordinator. I think he's making like $2 million a year, you know, a ride now to the college football playoff. And I'm like, Indiana fans feel the exact same way. Not to be mean and nasty to Tom Allen, but
we
they
need
feel
a Tom Allen, Kurt Signetti handshake next year.
They feel
are they on the schedule?
I think it's a good question. I think you're right about Leonard. We'll take a break here. Pop quiz coming up. Can you make, you know, can you get to the spot to where Riley Leonard is either having to throw, playing from behind, you know, having to make those plays?
And I'm not even saying playing from behind, Andy. I'm saying a 3rd and 4 with a 4 or a 3rd and 7 with a 4-point lead.
You're spot on.
You know, at your own 27. And what does Mike Denbrock call? Are you running the draw? I mean,
Well,
you know,
I am.
Are you just running Leonard,
Listen,
or
I am.
do you feel like he can deliver?
You know, you asked a question earlier. Do you think Notre Dame will bring it after the maybe emotional letdown they could have with Georgia? What makes Notre Dame so, I don't want to say different, but the reason I would say no to that is they are a team that is all about a physical edge. So if you're Penn State, are you going to get beat up? Can you get them out of that physical edge mode that they're in, where they want to run the football, control the clock? Can you get them, you know, can you get them out of that, which goes into Riley Leonard throwing the ball? And then just, you know, for me, Notre Dame has won things like the special teams battle, you know, kind of the game within the game. They've won a lot of that in these first 2 matchups.
That's been a common thing.
So we'll dive into that, our final thoughts on the game. Plus, pop quiz. It's next. 239-1070. Load them up. It's a pop quiz on a Thursday.
All right, if you want to give an effort that I would say is probably the most college football centric, 3 of the 5 questions I'm seeing, Scotty? Go ahead and give us a ring, 317-239-1070 for the pop quiz. Throughout the show, and I made a plea at about 7:01 this morning to Mark Dykton. He's been wonderful with this, to play some music from the Rudy soundtrack. That would be Jerry Goldsmith for those that really care about this. I'm sure all of you are just on the edge of your seats, 10-2 right now, waiting to hear about that. Mark has done a great job with that. Listener Brian asked me during the break, why didn't Maddie walk down the aisle to the Rudy soundtrack?
It's a great question. I mean, it's valid. You knew the pep band director. Let's be honest, at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
you knew what he looked like.
Yeah.
You knew his name.
And
you gave him a pat on the back at one
calling
point.
the Notre Dame marching band a pep band is a slap in the face.
It is.
That is a extremely well-accomplished, distinguished marching band.
It's a highly tuned machine.
Have you seen those outfits? Those aren't cheap.
Oh, I'm sure they're not.
Got those tall people in the front that wear the tall hats. I think they're all supposed to be at least 6'2" or something. I don't even know how to describe them.
So if Notre Dame wins, you're not doing the Speedo unless they win the national title.
Yeah.
What's the?
I just couple items of business for me,
please.
And I need your guys' help. If Notre Dame wins, we've got to order the Speedo, right? Just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No.
Well, we don't have to.
Well,
you have
I
to.
think it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, sure. We can log on.
You guys gonna have to help me with size?
Well,
we can do that.
Now we're dipping into some fields.
I don't
I'm not
know, how
with.
well that would fit, and then we're gonna have to think about, how this would look. If would I potentially run around the circle with maybe a mic on? Would this? We probably have to do a little bit late, like 8 a.m. ish. Once the sun is up a little bit.
Let the sun come up. Yeah.
Maybe we could kind of FaceTime each other as we did this. Technologically, how do we get it on YouTube? Now, again, we're all talking hypotheticals that could mean absolutely nothing come 11:30 tonight when I cancel my Airbnb and my flights.
And that's the flip side of it. If they lose, you're going to be up late. It's an early morning.
We could have the Chris Ballard presser. It could be.
You're going to have the Ballard stuff that's going to be thrown in there. I mean, your Friday could be a little frustrating, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'm just curious how many layers you're wearing tomorrow if they do win.
But you'll be the martyr. Everyone, oh, we're sorry. You'll go to the complex and Stephen Holder will put his arm around you, and Joel and Nate and everyone will,
Yeah, but they don't.
They'll
really
say I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they don't really mean it.
I'm looking right now.
Well, if I'm Stephen Holder and I'm a Miami fan, I sure as hell want you to lose tonight. I'm rooting for Penn State.
I'm right now looking at a Notre Dame.
Well, I mean, Catholics and convicts, right?
I mean,
I know that's kind of getting musty and mustier, but
getting very musty.
Yeah.
Now, this stadium has not been good to Notre Dame. This is where the 2013 national title was, Notre Dame, Alabama.
Oh, gotcha.
What do you got, Mark?
Notre Dame Dolphin Prep Team Brief will run you $36.
That seems expensive.
$36 for a Speedo?
Yeah, I thought that would be. I thought. It's the Notre Dame print. That's the problem.
Can I stitch one together? Can I get my Singer machine out? And see
you
if
can go a lesser one's on Amazon for $30, but I mean, we want it to stay on. We don't want it falling off. We don't want it, falling apart at the seams.
Well, sure. No, that's
we want quality.
I think we speak for everyone on that end. And boy, this weather right now.
Listen, I think
we
what
might need to go down a size or two with this weather right now.
I think what we do is we reach out to the Notre Dame swimming and diving team, which had.
Didn't they get busted for gambling or something?
You know what? Maybe we don't.
Well, then they could probably sell you some gear. I'm assuming.
Aren't they not having a season this year?
I'm sure they'd love to send a Speedo to a 35-year-old man down in Indianapolis.
Well, they have nothing to do right now. They're not swimming this season, are they? Weren't they all suspended?
The only thing more pathetic of buying a Notre Dame Speedo is buying a used Notre Dame Speedo, which is what you'd be doing if you contacted their athletic office.
Oh, I mean,
that'd be washed.
You could just
okay.
You could just wash it. Matthew here in the YouTube chat. If Kevin does this, I'm out on this show forever. Well,
sorry, you're gonna have to get over it. I don't know what to tell. I don't know what
Matthew,
to tell you.
Come on.
Well, you also don't have to watch the video.
No,
it's like you don't have to hit play on that.
No, no one's forcing this on you.
You can decide to skip that when you're, scanning Twitter X. Come on.
We got to go quick on the pop quiz. Mark Dykton, give us a caller.
Lyle.
Hey, Lyle.
Hello.
Lyle, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
Lyle, do you care if Notre Dame wins or not tonight?
Oh, I'm a big Irish fan. They got to win.
Oh, there we go.
It's destiny.
We didn't even know it. All right. We got to go quick. Lyle, you ready to go? You got a chance here. All right, so Notre Dame, Penn State tonight in the Orange Bowl. A berth for the national title game is at stake. Both the Fighting Irish and the Nittany Lions have been in 5 previous Orange Bowls each. Who has the most Orange Bowl wins between the Irish and Penn State?
Let's go Irish.
Number 2 here, Lyle. Leading scorer last night, Pacers Bulls. Was it Siakam, Levine, Bryant, or Kobe White? That'd be Thomas Bryant, by the way.
Let's go Thomas Bryant.
Number 3, Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman turns 39 years old tomorrow. How about that? Named the last head coach to win an AP college football national championship before his 40th birthday. Was it Dennis Erickson, Bob Stoops, Urban Meyer, or Danny Ford?
Urban Meyer.
Oh, I hope Notre Dame plays better than this is going. Lyle, number 4 here. Notre Dame enters tonight riding an NCAA best 12-game win streak. The last 9 victories by 10 points or more. Who was the head coach of the Irish the last time they won 9 games in a row by a margin of double digits or more? Holtz, Parsegian, Frank Leahy, or Newt Rockne?
Oh, man. Let's go Holtz.
Riley Leonard just threw his 3rd pick 6 of the night.
On this day in 1972, the longest winning streak in NBA history came to an end as the LA Lakers had their 33-game winning game streak snapped. Which team beat the Lakers to end the streak? The Celtics, the Warriors, the Knicks, or the Bucks?
The Bucks.
Oh, there we go. Lyle.
There you
Mitch
go,
Jeter
Lyle.
kicks a 45-yard field goal down 31-0.
Have a good afternoon, Lyle. It also sounded like a young Lyle.
Thank you, Lyle. Sandy Lyle, right, in the Masters?
My
Penn
favorite.
State, number 1. They've won 4 Orange Bowls. Notre Dame, 2. We don't need the Nittany Lion. Levine had 31 last night. Danny Ford with Clemson. And it was Leahy, not Holtz. He got the Bucks one right.
Oh, goodness. Can't wait for Lou Holtz's analysis on this game at some point.
24-20 Irish.
Ooh, 24-20. Yeah. I will go. Yeah, I'll do the same. 24-21. I'll be a little bit different. All right, let's go.
Go watch Rudy.
All right, everyone have a good afternoon right here on The Fan.